This is my Sunday. This is like my entire Sunday these days. It's just talking to you about RahXephon and watching RahXephon.
The LHC podcast with Huw Miller and Louis Payne. Today, RahXephon episodes 5 and 6. Yeah, so we watch RahXephon.
Anyway.
We're talking about today. We're going to talk about RahXephon episodes 5 and 6. Of course, RahXephon, as we noticed last episode, have different English and Japanese title names. So
my episode 5 is called Nirai Kanai, On Earth as It Is in Heaven.
Oh, okay. On Earth as It Is in Heaven is the English title. The Japanese title is, yes, Nirai Kanai. We'll learn about what Nirai Kanai actually is later on as we go through the episode.
We will. Okay.
So episode 5, On Earth as It Is in Heaven.
Or Nirai Kanai.
Or Nirai Kanai.
As depends on me. Now, this episode is the one that I had to keep pausing. I've only had to pause a couple of times till now, but this has so much stuff of people talking, of different characters being introduced. This is really when we get all in the introduction to the island and to all the people and to everything that's going to be a staple for the rest of the series. So, the first thing that happens is they are having a nice talk about how the D1, the previous Golem, it's Jin talking.
Okay, I do have to apologise to everyone. See, this is the thing that I was worried about, is that you've really got to establish what the heck's going on.
I'm trying to establish. I've made an error in my note in that my first note is talk, and then what they're talking about. I forgot to note who's there. I remember who's there though. Okay, so the next episode begins with Jin, Makoto, and the Major all talking in one of the command rooms. So the Major is Soichi.
Yes, Soichi. Yes, I always remember it being like appropriate, weak but dependable guy name, and that is someone
Is it Mamoru?
Oh, it
wouldn't
surprise me. Oh no, Yakumo.
Yakumo.
I think I remember mentioning that. Yes, I said Soichi Yakumo, and yes, Soichi is, a very dependable sounding name for a weedy sounder guy, and Yakumo, of course, is an old name for Japan. It means 8 clouds.
So he's the guy who is so totally Japan. He's so Japan it hurts.
I don't know.
But
he really has a weird voice in the Japanese dub. Koki Miyata, who plays him kind of like the kiddie version. The kiddie young guy in a pop band, when I think he really should play him as like the more youthful, refreshing guy in a pop band. But he plays him like the annoying kid guy in a pop band, and I am not a big fan of his Japanese voice.
I quite like his English voice, because his English voice is subdued and it's really nice. But the things he's saying aren't often that subdued or nice. He's just like, yeah, we're totally using him and it's great, high five, sort of thing. So we go back and we have Jin, Makoto, and Soichi all having a talk. I might just call him the Major, because frankly it's easier to pronounce.
He is the only one who with the title of Major.
Yeah, and
why not?
They do refer to him mostly as Major. I don't know about your one, but in my one he's mostly just called Major, which is why, because I don't have my notes from last time with me at the moment, I've just got him down as Major, because they didn't say his name until episode 6. They're talking about how the Golem in the previous episode is dead, and while I may have remarked last episode that there's never anything at all in the way of debris, there is simply blue goo and blood everywhere, apparently this is a lie, because Makoto is shipping off like an entire aircraft carrier's worth of bits of Golem. So it looks like it must be some sort of just visual effect that there never is any debris, because apparently when that stuff hits the ground, oh yeah, there's a lot to salvage.
It's easy to animate.
I know. But still, I'm fine with there being no debris, as long as you don't then, in the next episode, go right back to a Pacific Rim style, hey, look at all the bits we found.
Which I do think is good about this, and Pacific Rim, and similar robot shows, and alien invasion shows, where they do always cart off all the remains and look at them. Even XCOM has that, isn't it, where you got to look at all of them and stuff. Yeah,
in XCOM you're told that explosives aren't that fun to use just because you have a lot less salvageable corpses if you've blown up the building. It's one of the main reasons why they're sending in the small squads rather than just blowing the shit out of everything. Anyway, in this we learn that the agreement has happened between the Federation, who Makoto works for, that they will take away all of the bits, and that appears to have pleased them to the point where they're happy enough to leave the RahXephon, whereas last time they were taking him away. Then we also find out... Sorry?
Nope, go on.
They call it the O-part. Is that what you were going to say?
Yeah, O-parts, yeah. Which, if we want to, in the linear notes, in the ADV linear notes, because this, by the way, was the heyday of really nice little inserts for the DVDs, which ADV
they're really good,
packed with stuff, and they have the explanation for O-parts here, which is short for out of place artifact, and in archaeology refers to an object that is utterly inconsistent with the context in which it is discovered. I don't know. I think in a pool of gore beneath the victorious giant robot is a usual place to find parts of giant robots, but there we go.
The O-part is the RahXephon. That's the thing. They don't call the Mulian the RahXephon.
They got the RahXephon out of Tokyo Jupiter. Again, totally normal.
Yes, that is exactly where you'd expect to find a RahXephon in a Mulian base, pretty much.
The explanation here is great. It says, think of finding a toaster in the middle of Pompeii. Considering Pompeii is such a massive tourist attraction, I wouldn't be surprised. In modern context, this is usually used by fringe groups talking about legendary objects. So the same thing as, MUBAs, unidentified animals and UFO people. It's kind of it's like one of those things. It's taking like an urban legend or sort of a xenobiology term that's only used by fanatics and using it seriously in your sci-fi thing, which is often gives it a nice feeling. I like that when you have people who use stuff like that. But anyway, so
they are having a nice discussion here, and this is when we learn that the RahXephon has a very useful feature in that if the pilot isn't really feeling it, it turns to stone.
That is a very good outside auto locking feature. I think if my car turned to stone when I was away from it, I don't think it would get broken into as much.
No, it's like, do you want someone else to pilot your car? No. Do you want to pilot it in any way? No. Good. Stone. Yeah. So no, the RahXephon is petrifying, which we are being told now is entirely based on Ayato's mental state.
I do have to say, I don't remember anything in the episode them explaining how that works. Either how they know, or how they know, or how they know it is linked to the RahXephon. We kind of get later that they have been experimenting and dealing a lot with Mulian technology. It does seem like Mulian technology really, what that really means is just the best technology for making giant robots. So
yeah, I mean the thing is, there's a lot of this sort of thing where you find out that this technology works in a certain way, and it's the way that they know about, but they don't really go into it at any point. But it's not really about the sci-fi research aspect of it. It's much more of an artsy sci-fi where everything's done by image and sound rather than by actually, hey, we did a lot of research and this mathematical algorithm shows that Ayato's a whiny bitch.
I don't know. I think the way they treat the particularly the organisation of terror and the equipment in this is actually kind of good in RahXephon. Other than it seems that only like 3 people in the world are actually dealing with it, but I think the situation that they present in RahXephon is better than in most series. Particularly,
I would agree with that, but especially because they've got
I think this stands
divided up.
Them immediately knowing and not really giving us an explanation stands out against the rest of the series, where it really kind of makes sense.
Well, the other thing being, of course, that there was a RahXephon pool just sitting there. So they obviously knew what a RahXephon was. I mean, that was the implication that Operation Overlord was to go and get it. And if you're going to go and get it, you would assume that they have an idea of A, what it is, B, what it's for, C, what to do with it, and D, how to store it. These are the things you'd research before putting almost all your eggs in the basket of let's go get a RahXephon. Or actually right. a Zephon, to be fair. If you notice how they refer to it as the Zephon, whose name happens to be Ra, so it's RahXephon.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Anyway, so we go back to, they're having a nice little conversation here about how Ayato being a whiny bitch is unfortunately destroying mankind's hope of survival. So, this is also the time when we discover that Makoto is going to go and take the Dolem away and be very, very smug with it. He's smug all the damn time, so it's not anything new for him, but he's going to go and be smug with the Dolan back at the Federation. Jin is going to go to a meeting of the Joint Chiefs.
We're just doing a little bit of meeting because he's in the bridge type place for Terra to snap at Ayato later.
He is. He's going to go there after he's done with today, from then on. So yes.
After he's done with, he's the tactical operations dude. So
he's going to finish his delegations and then he's going to go off and have this big meeting.
Which generally mostly says, talking to the Major and say, could you take care of, everything?
Everything. Everything there is. I mean, the Major, you're the only Major here in this organisation which seems to be the sole defence mankind has against the Mulian operations, and you're the only Major here, and you're so young and inexperienced, so if you could totally do everything, it would be greatly appreciated.
I think we'll get to...
Yes, we'll certainly get to that later, but...
Yeah. That's more for next episode, but yes. So keeping up with this episode... The Major
is annoyed that there is no time... He says that there is no time for politics, for taking away your commander and making him bugger off to go and do some stuff that doesn't seem particularly important to him, such as having a big meeting. And I have to admit, I've been extremely frustrated with work when I wanted to get some actual work done and instead had to have a stupid, pointless meeting. Because there's very little occasions where meetings at work are actually better to have than just everyone in that meeting doing some actual work, in my opinion. And it does seem that anime agrees with me here. Or at least the Major. We then cut to Ayato getting tested on by Itsuki, who is running some data collection on him outside and is wondering how to do so in the actual RahXephon. We also then get shown Ayato and Kwon both lying in these giant MRI-like machines with their weird tattoos.
Now, the thing about this, this is actually the first proper time we're introduced to Itsuki, because he was only briefly in the last episode. So we get to see a bit more of him. And indeed, we get to hang around him a lot later, where he gets to be Mr. Exposition and a few other stuff.
He's Science Dude. I wrote it down as originally a Science Dude, and it really does show.
He does. He's got a good Science Dude look as well, because he's got he can actually pull off a ponytail, which is quite an achievement. And he's got those quite nice
He certainly
glasses.
can't pull off outfits, as we'll discover later.
Oh yeah, God. But this one was interesting because I wanted to say, putting next to each other, whether or not Ayato was similarly sort of ogled as Kwon, and I think Kwon was still a bit more nastily ogled in this one because they sort of made her look very doll-like and sort of looked at her low so you could see the curve of her boobs as the line went on. Whereas Ayato got a very straight look.
Ayato's like, hey, look, he's topless, we'll deal with it, move on. Look at his tattoo, that's it.
Yeah. So sadly, I was going to say, look, there we go, I was hoping when I watched this scene again, there we go, it's a nice showing of even sexiness on display for everyone, but no, Kwon was a bit more ogled than Ayato was, which is unfortunate.
This is also the point where, if you were wondering if there was any sort of connection between
Ayato
Kwon and Ayato that's been heavily hinted at this point, straight up, the other character in this scene of nameless old science guy will say, they are very similar.
They are very similar.
Immediately.
Well,
very similar.
They've got the same bloody symbol on them.
Yes. Well, no, it's not the same symbol.
Is it not?
It is a symbol.
Oh, they've both got a symbol on them. Okay.
They both got one. And so if you were wondering whether there was going to be any sort of connection between the two, he point blank says this straight away.
Yeah.
So Ayato is in his room,
which is locked noticeably.
Yeah,
there's a noticeable
very
sequence.
notably locked.
Well, there's a noticeable sequence right at the beginning when the Major comes in, and the lock turns off so that he can go in.
So Ayato is still being kept here as a prisoner for all intents and purposes.
Very nice prisoner. I mean, it's a nice prison cell, as prison cells go.
Oh, it's very nice. I would be delighted if I went to prison to be put in that prison cell. But as prison cells go, you'd probably think most people would rather they weren't in one, as a general rule.
Oh, yes.
I don't think Ayato is probably no different at this point.
Well, he hasn't eaten.
But hasn't he? Oh, no, yes, he has not eaten his food.
Makes a point to show that he hasn't eaten.
Yeah. So Ayato's mental state is clearly declining. He's not eating. He's being kept in a prison cell. And the Major's come to go and have a visit of him. And the Major then brings him out to go and see the entire cast.
Yeah, we'll briefly get brief shots of all the different casts looking at him. We won't go through them because we'll get introduced to them properly later, I think, won't we?
Yeah, but the one thing that you should make note of now when we're glancing at them is how amazingly few people seem to be involved in this.
Oh,
and
yeah.
how young they all look. I mean,
Again-
we'll get into some of their actual ages soon. They actually do note their ages at some points, but my God, so few people, so young.
So few people so young. I mean, yeah. Let's just briefly open up the linear notes and look who's got on here. Yakumo, right? The major, who we were just talking about. He is a major. Now, what do you think the average rank for someone who's a major? I am going to look that up. This sounds like an interesting diversion.
What?
Average...
Yes. I would guess 30, 32.
Age for major. Average age for army major. Because I think they're using an army one, but again, military, it's a bit weird. The average age of Sandhurst graduates is 23. Average ages per rank in US military. Let's use this one.
Yes.
This just turns up in... No, this was a Transformers Universe MUX, so this is a bit useless. There we are. Yahoo Answers, although I do not trust you, Yahoo Answers. Best answer... Sergeant Major is actually 20.8 years. Oh, the time it takes to be promoted. So it takes 20.8 years to be promoted. Assuming you're 18 when you join, that's 38.
That's like 40.
Yeah, that's 38 or 40.
That's even to Sergeant Major, and Major's higher than that. So.
Oh, but if you're talking officer, start at age, say, 23 and add, of course.
Yeah.
I just realised. So it's actually, 43.
So to be a Sergeant Major, they'd expect you to be about 43.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going from TV age of being a major, such as Stargate and other fake military programs that deal with sci-fi, and the majors in that are generally late 20s to early 30s. But no, how old is he then? The major in this?
He's 22.
Yeah, that's obscene.
That's obscene.
Being a major at that rank, because
he's
he
basically
shouldn't even have graduated military school.
Yeah, he's
second.
He's not even old enough to have graduated military school in our country, in the UK.
Yes, he is third in the rankings of Terra's organisation. Terra, the organisation here, which is the sole organisation that seems to be fighting the war for humanity.
I just realised...
And he is the third ranking person, and he's 22.
He outranks... He must be a genius, though, because he outranks Haruka, who is 29, who is, I think, given, even if she was super amazing, is alright for a captain, 29, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, no, we said 29 captain, perfectly reasonable, completely... Wow, yeah, she's probably put her entire life into being into the military. So, yeah, for him to outrank her 7 years earlier is considerably weird, I think. But yes, we also have
Makoto,
Lieutenant Kim.
Lieutenant
Kim is 19.
Yes, she's a lieutenant and she's 19.
She's actually 18 in this because the next episode she will turn 19.
Yes.
So at this point in time, she's an established lieutenant in this organisation.
Do you remember people
18.
listening? We haven't introduced people listening here to Kim, but yes, Kim is in the background. She says things about Ayato being sexy. Which we all agree with. Shows she's got good taste.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But Makoto, a character we have been introduced to. Again, he hasn't been introduced by name, but he's the guy working for the Earth Federation with the glasses and the white suit that Huw says is so evil looking. And he is...
come on, he
is 29.
That actually is fair, though.
That actually, again, I also see as kind of quasi-fair. A lot of the major characters actually are 29, so they kind of have sort of skipped things deliberately to get to
29 is the oldest you can get to them without them being in their 30s, and strange things happen when you're in your 30s in anime.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
29 is always a great age for stuff to happen to you. I personally am very much looking forward to 29 when I get my own giant robot.
Yeah, that's what happens in the real world. You get your giant robot at 29.
I thought so.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise, what is the point in this anticipation this year?
Yeah. Right. So, sorry, I just thought we'd have that little bit of derail, but that was actually, I think that was very productive just to see, oh my god, everyone in this series is so effing young.
We will go through them all. As they're introduced, we will go through them all and we will point out how stupid young they are. And Lewis, your homework is to find the proper ages people should be in the military so that we can laugh at their ranks and their age every time it comes up.
Well, apart from... Jin. Jin's sort of appropriately aged, I think.
Oh no, Jin. Jin is the second in command.
He's commander.
Commander Jin Katsuragi, and yeah, he's completely legitimately, he's a veteran, he's got a lot of experience, but we are finding that beyond the top 2 guys in this organization, everyone else is stupid young. Yeah. But we get a quick glance at them. We get the only 2 dialogue characters are Kim and Megami, both of whom will come up later. Megami, this episode is largely about her, and Kim, the next one. But other people, we've got dude with dreadlocks, dude who's friends with dude with dreadlocks.
Yeah.
And actually, is that it? I know I said it was a small cast, but I genuinely can't think of any apart from the 2 girls,
Haruka,
the 2 boys, and the people
everyone.
we already know.
Yeah.
And Haruka is only sort of at the side. She's actually an intelligence. She's not in the operationals department. Yeah. She's only here as a side note because Ayato's there.
Yeah. And there's Itsuki, of course, because Itsuki's in the...
Ah, but he's in the science department.
He's in the sciencey department. Doing science.
So Ayato comes in, he shows complete disdain for all of the people in this room, probably because of how stupidly young they all look. I mean, come on, if you're being introduced to the military organisation...
He's going, I could totally have you...
2 years older than
Strop. Super strop.
So,
he's basically, having... In story, he's having like a teenager as stroppy strop. Isn't he?
He is. He's having the stroppiest strop in the history of Strop Nation. But, you see, the weird thing is that, of course, by this point in humanity, teenagers evolved beyond strop. So everyone's very confused by this, because it's really an echo of the past.
Yeah. Everyone's very confused about his kind of stroppiness.
Yeah, I mean, no one could possibly understand how, if you're dragged away from your home, told that everything was a lie and we're going to kill an organisation that's ruled by your mother, who all are aliens with blue blood, and... Yeah, you can't at all understand why he's in a bit of a strop at this point, can you?
Exactly.
So,
And they do say, actually, that Ayato and Jin's interaction in this scene is like 2 kids having a fight. They don't look at each other. And
they just sort of... Well, they're glaring at each other out the corner of their eyes and prepping... prepping their next sort of vague shouting match about the complete difference in ideals that they have. But this is also where we have Haruka attempting to take Ayato's hand in a very possessive... And to be fair, why does she try and take his hand? I mean, we know why generally, but I still think that's a little much in terms of, 29-year-old... To everyone else in the room, 29-year-old person captain who's in this military organisation says, hey, could you take Ayato somewhere? This 17-year-old boy that we've pulled out of a war zone. Yeah, sure. Take my hand. I mean, leading him by the hand downstairs.
Yes,
is
she
quite
does.
Odd.
She looks very sort of messed around with. And what's good is, for the first time watcher, it's a nice sense of mystery, because you again really see how much Haruka has invested in Ayato, and you're still not sure exactly why. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but it does seem that she went for him more than the RahXephon into Tokyo Jupiter. But
and she's really hurt by Ayato's spurning, but we still don't really know.
Yes.
But yes, it does seem
pulls
weird.
His hand away.
Sort of like, come on, you can't be so obviously a Shotokan in front of your co-workers. It's 17.
Everyone there is like, give it a year. It's not legal. Give it a year.
Give it just one more year, Haruka. You can wait.
But I'll be 30 then.
It'll still be weird. But...
No. 29 and 18. Most people would be like, stretching it, but you might give it a pass. 30 and 18, suddenly it's wrong.
Yeah, it's a mark year.
Exactly. But yeah, you're not allowed to have your mark year, both of you at the same time, when it's different marks. That difference.
Those sort of are like the break-off periods, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah. But, so, she tries to take his hand, he pulls away and says, don't touch me! And immediately, Itsuki touches him.
Itsuki, drops down.
That was my...
What's that?
The very first thing.
Looks like you got burned, Haruka. I'll be taking this sweet, sexy thing with me.
I know, yeah. So he says, don't touch me. And literally, about a second after he says this, Itsuki goes, I'm going to put my hand on your shoulder. Hey, wanna come with me? Let's go to Sexy Town. So, yeah.
It does not help for the people listening to this, and hopefully you've watched the episode, but the people who want to, just follow this, later on, he does take him on a bloody motorboat. It does seem like a date for a suspiciously long period of time. But before we get to that...
No, Itsuki does seem to come up, put a hand on his shoulder and go, "Don't like military people? I'm not in the military. Let's go on a date."
Yeah.
I mean, he says, "Who are you?" "Well, the thing you've got to know is, I'm not these people."
Yeah.
And I think when you're selling yourself like that...
What's his name, actually? Itsuki...
Who? Itsuki.
Itsuki, yeah, but his last name, Itsuki...
Doctor?
Because, I mean, he probably introduces himself now, doesn't he?
Didn't in mind.
Itsuki Kisaragi. Oh, does he not? Oh, okay.
Yes.
But
Kisaragi.
anyway, he...
Yes, same name as Kwon, obviously. Anyway, so, yes, he introduces himself as Itsuki Kitsuragi and invites Gayato onto a nice date. But, yeah, he's so over-friendly here, though, and he seems to be majorly selling himself largely on not being an official member of Terra, which is weird to me, because he does have, he is the head of the science department. And so, is this science department not with Terra? Do they just have a shared building?
I guess he's saying, well, again, in a way that could be a good showing of just how sort of slightly dodgy Itsuki is. You know, Itsuki's sort of distancing himself, although he's quasi-lying.
He's not. Well, yes, but not officially lying, I think is the point he'd make here. But, yeah, also, it's like, I'm not these guys. It wasn't me that chose to kidnap you, take you here, and lock you up in prison. I'm just the one that designed the experiments we're going to be doing on you. And I'll be performing them. Yeah, so they then start to leave the building, and at which point the Major asks Megumi, who is the exceedingly young girl. She is the youngest one there. Is she 15 or 16?
She'd be 15, 16. She's about the same age as Ayato, isn't she? Actually, maybe 17.
I think she's a little younger than him, but she's certainly school age. Anyway, so we'll give it a pass and say that she's
extenuating
at least 17.
circumstances, though, for...
Oh, fair enough.
For Megumi.
No, I still... I'm not sure about her extenuating circumstances. Hers is...
We'll bring them up when we get to them, but yeah. Yes. He whispers what he wants her to do, which is obviously... Ayato's final destination, and we get a good I don't know. Her reaction was very good in the Japanese dub. What was it like for your one?
Yeah. Well, mine it was just
Megumi.
I was avoiding saying her last name, to be honest.
It's the same as
Haruka's,
yeah.
Yes,
in this one done by... Oh my goodness, what an unfortunate... I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. Hilary Hag.
Hilary Hag, yes. Yeah.
The Japanese one, I'll just briefly say, is Ayako Kawasumi, who I will only say one thing, which is I just want to make sure I've got it completely right. She is Saber, pretty much, now. So she is now super famous and has done for 10 years. She has played Saber in all variant Fate Stay Night media, which means she has also played in Samurai Champloo. She's also played Fu. So yeah, there are the two really famous things that she did after RahXephon. So yeah, she is now kind of a megastar, actually. Now look at it, because Saber she'd been doing for 10 years, pretty much all the time. And Fu is probably something that a lot of people, English-speaking people who are listening to this podcast are very familiar with. So yeah, very, very famous now. But back then, it was kind of quite starting for her, actually. She's also a skilled pianist.
The Major is asking the character for a favour, and
she reacts very
but the thing I would notice before she reacts is she does seem to be quite embarrassed, and she does seem to get flushed whenever the Major is around looking at her or just generally thinking about him. So I don't think they go much out of the way to hide the whole little crush she has on the Major.
Well, yeah, because he looks, like I say, he sounds like a boy band member.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, we've only had her for a couple of scenes, and I think even at this point, it's fairly obvious where her interest lies. So we then cut to Ayato and Itsuki in the transport, where Itsuki decides that this is the best time for a monologue. Because when, of course, you have a pouting teenager who doesn't want to talk, you've pretty much got a captive audience here.
Yeah, well, he's got a literally captive audience, because again, Ayato is still kind of under their custody.
So he's transporting Ayato and telling him, he immediately as well, he says, not talking, that makes you a Mulian. It's like, what? Yeah. Well, Mulians have no wasted effort, no wasted notes. That's the song of the Mu, and as such, you're a Mulian. Straight away.
Does he say that in the English one, you're a Mulian?
In the English one, he says, not talking, how very like the moo.
That's what he says.
No wasted notes.
Oh, you mean he's implying that you're a Mulian?
Yeah.
Well, in a way, we kind of are always worried that he might be, because he's from the place where the moo are. Yeah, no, exactly, and he's got the moo phase. But yeah, Itsuki immediately sort of... it's like one of those things where you're too quiet around Itsuki. Like the moo, he does not waste effort or waste notes. But now I'm talking. Like the moo, he wishes to try and pass amongst us as one of our own. But, can I go... like the moo, he's off to the toilet. Yep, I agree. I think he'd probably do that regardless of what happens. Interesting enough, he says the moo, and he says, yes, our enemy's from Tokyo Jupiter or something. And he says the moo, like Churchwald thing, and he says, that's a myth. And indeed, Churchwald was the person who speculated about a lost island just off the coast of South America that was fabulously advanced, like Atlantis, and he called these people the moo, and this is what the moo are based on. So it's straight up, sort of the show kind of trying to make look. We didn't just pick it out of thin air. We're referencing Churchwald, and look how smart our main character is. He knows of them.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known that.
Yeah. Which, by the way, what the frig, Ayato's mum? Sort of like, you know what, I'll leave these books that reference our history just lying around in my home. Maybe my capricious artistic son will read them.
To be fair, though, in the thing, they say that they're named after... It's a literary reference why they call them the moo. They're not actually a lost island that had super technology or anything like that.
That's true, yes. They do call them that because they are similar.
Because they called them it. Because they went, wow, it's based on sort of Mayan stuff that's super advanced technology. Like that book that Churchwald wrote. Yeah. So they then go, after a while, they meet up with Quan. And this is when we first get the introduction of them as brother and sister of... who live together, Quan and Itsuki, and the first signs as well of their incredibly inappropriate sibling nature.
Yes, they do have an incredibly inappropriate sibling relationship, and and frankly, well, the problem is I never bought that they were siblings the moment they were introduced.
I know, they're just totally not.
Totally not. But sadly, people listening, if you don't know the Secrets of RahXephon, it doesn't get any better, so you might as well be creeped out by them being siblings now. Because it's not going to get any better.
Yeah. If anything, it gets worse. And when we actually get onto the film, the film is so much worse than this as well.
For the film, I don't like comparing the film and the TV series, because so many characters are pushed in the back, and Itsuki is one of them.
Yes.
Itsuki is kind of pretty much a non-character, as is Quan in the film, in order to make it more about Ayato and Haruko, who are just more interesting in general anyway.
True.
But
they throw a few more people.
We do get this is just you just see him sort of help Quan get all suited back up, and after he gets suited up, you get this really weird bra joke when he clips them all together, and Ayato looks a bit embarrassed.
The front hooks are rather difficult, aren't they? Yes, I've heard that.
Oh, is that what
was my one?
See, this is the thing. The English. Oh, god damn it. The English actor who I should just know off the top of my head, I do not know, sorry.
Chris Patton.
Chris Patton plays Ayato as kind of breathless and embarrassed, whereas Hiro Sumeno plays him as such a snarky bastard.
Really?
Yeah, Itsuki goes, Itsuki quite more literally in the Japanese one goes, these are the front hook, this is the front hook type. He's literally making a bra joke right. And in the Japanese one, he rebuffs it by just going, yeah, I know. He says it kind of like that. He goes, yeah, I know.
Fair enough. No, in the English one, it's a case of, these front hooks can be quite difficult. Yeah, I have heard that. So I didn't even get the bra reference. I was more going, how are they difficult? It's a clasp at the front where you can clearly see them and reach them. What is wrong with Quan? That she can't do her bloody clasps up.
Yeah. No, it is literally
That's
him.
the problem I had.
It's literally him saying, she must like you if she gets you to do this, bra play with her. And he goes, oh, yeah. And he's like, oh, yeah. But he's like, oh, yeah, in a sort of a much more rebuffist sort of way that it sounds like in the English one. So this is then when we go from that into Itsuki's marvellous open speedboat, which really starts to look like a date.
Yeah, this is like, here, I will take you. My sister and I will take you out on the open water.
Do you take all the girls out on your speedboat on the first date, Itsuki? With your sister?
So yeah, he introduces the city and the islands where the series will take place, which is Nirai Kanai. And Nirai Kanai is a city that was built on the Nirai Islands, that's Kanai the city, and it's built entirely for a pun, because Nirai Kanai apparently means utopia.
It means utopia in Okinawan, yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, of course, because of horrible things happening like all of Tokyo, and it's important to remember, everyone, that Tokyo is perhaps, I think by the time of recording, the biggest, and probably will still be one of the biggest cities in the world. There's not much to do in mainland Japan, and people probably want to stay the hell away from the giant frigging Jupiter-sized orb. So a lot of people have moved to like the southern and northern islands of Japan. So a lot of, like we said in the second episode, most of RahXephon is set in these southern Ryukyu Okinawan islands.
Now, I'd like to point out, we do see this massive city. Now, I seem to remember that you made a comment a couple of times ago that you are in a small island area, it's really remote and all this sort of stuff. And that's why it may be that there's less people who want to work for Terra. And that might be why there's only young people and there's only a small amount of people working there. No, there's a giant f***ing city.
Yeah,
right
giant
there.
Reclaimed city, you're right. Yeah,
It's
a mistake on my part.
I know, it's a huge city full of a huge amount of people. How can you not get anyone to work for your organisation? Is it that, do they pay a pittance? Is that it? Because frankly, even then, you would have had a lot of people joining for reasons of, hey, aliens, or hey, let's get revenge for all these people killed by all the aliens. I mean, hell, you would even get all the people if I lived in Tokyo and now I don't want to know what's happening to it.
Yeah, I do agree. It does seem a bit off. But I have a theory of that, but that's to be brought up in episode 6.
Okay, fair enough. We'll get to that next time. But yes, we do have the introduction of the giant city we will almost never go to, but is there, like 10 minutes away from your office.
10 minutes away from your office, but no, we're going to go and have a more sort of
by
rural
speedboat,
Japan
of course.
setting.
10 minutes away by speedboat.
With a brief look at Commander Jin's country house.
Yes.
Which looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, true. This is also when Itsuki reveals what will become a recurring comment from him, because he is a massive fanboy and stalker of Jin's cherry trees.
He does love to mention the cherry trees.
He mentions these cherry trees all the f***ing time. So yeah, he's like, oh, I was invited to go and see Commander Jin's cherry trees. Oh, it was so amazing. I had the most wonderful time. Have I told you about it? Yes, Itsuki. Yes, you have told us about the cherry trees.
Well, this is the first time Itsuki tells us.
This is the first time.
And we get to see a black and white picture of what the cherry trees must look like when they're in bloom. And indeed, it does look like a nice place if the moon was right to have a sakura viewing.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I'm not saying that Jin can't, hold some sort of cherry blossom party once a year. Not a problem with that at all. But I don't think it's really the only thing you need to know. I suppose he's trying to humanise Jin for Ayato, because at this point Ayato just sees him as that military dick who keeps locking me up and telling me that I should adjust my watch. He's like, no, I've set my watch to Tokyo time, even now. Apparently it's 4 a.m. All of you, I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, here is the point where I have to give a negative, bad RahXephon slap on the wrist, because while we were saying earlier, we like to think that it's, at least reasonably good with the whole even fan service, and then we noted that, Quan does get a little pervier. This is when we meet a new character, and the straight up first shot we get of her is just her tits.
Yes, we meet...
It's just her tits. The entire page. Okay, you have your full TV screen, and every inch of it is consumed by this woman's tits.
It literally starts at her tits and then goes, oh shit, and pulls up. Like this was actually being filmed by a cameraman who was like, oh wow, awesome tits. Wait, no, I have to be filming.
I've got it on record! Yeah, and I know this is meant to be Ayato's point of view that we're getting. I'm
still
fully
not
aware.
That's still not
exactly,
nice.
That's what I'm saying. I am fully aware that the idea that the director was going for was that Ayato sees her and that's his first thing he notices, and then he remembers he's got to pull up and look at her face. But even so, have Ayato do that.
Yeah,
You don't need to do that for the audience. The audience is perfectly aware that she has tits, especially now that you've shown them full screen from a couple of seconds before even showing her face. So, yes. This is a bad RahXephon moment.
Yeah, so there's a bad RahXephon moment, which is actually our first intro, I think, of Sayako Nanamori, who is Itsuki's sort of scientist who works for him. And she's a proper scientist, she's not like his assistant.
No, yeah.
She's a member
But
of
we
his
get
staff.
told that they do musical research, and which is quite odd considering that if he's meant to be doing musical research, why is he the one dealing with the giant robot? Because frankly, I know some musicians, and I'm fairly sure that they didn't also have giant mech classes in between their music course at university.
But Huw, who do you think fights the who do you think fights the Sioux? You know, Matt, our musician friend, he totally fights aliens every day. As well.
Oh yeah, using the power of his music.
Using the power of his music. No, yeah. Well, I think the idea there is because the RahXephon is meant to be an artistic instrument.
Yes, no, I'm fully aware of this, the whole thing, but straight up saying, hey, I do all this music research, you kind of go, and the RahXephon, you have a little dabbling in the giant mech field as well, right? You're the one in charge of it. I mean, hell, I'm actually thinking of building a giant mech, which is why I was going to find a conductor to hire to build me my giant mech. Because clearly they cross over so well, and you wouldn't need someone who's also an expert in robotics, for example.
Well, they do seem to use sound to affect the environment and everything.
Mm-hmm. Well,
but yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, get introduced. Sayako. Sayako is called his wife by Ayato. So Ayato mistakes Sayako immediately for his wife. This seems to greatly please Sayako, who's very happy about this, and Itsuki knocks her flat on her ass in less than a second with, no, that's a hilarious idea. Her being my wife, oh, can you imagine? Can you imagine how terrible that would be? Oh no, not even a little. And he keeps going until she eventually breaks down, cries. And,
no, she doesn't, everyone.
No, fine. He does completely rebuff this idea, though. And you can see on her face just the sheer irritation that this has, that he doesn't even consider it an option.
I like the facial animation in this episode. Yes, I like the pissed off looks that everyone gives each other. It's very good.
Well, this entire episode is mostly people pissing each other off and getting angry.
Yep.
Speaking of which... But, no, before we say speaking of which, we have to say, for the rest of this, it's a bit more back and forth where she's being quite nasty at her of saying, hey, this is a nice place, you'll like it here. And this goes, oh, no, you're not staying here. You're not staying here with me and Kwon. That would be terrible. We're going to stick you somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yes, so, speaking of people annoyed and angry at each other, we cut to Alvi and Haruka. Alvi being the pilot we've had introduction to repeatedly till this point. Now, they are in a restaurant with a beer on their table, clearly. Yep. I just want to make that very clear that there is already a beer on both their tables.
And they both within like a second of each other, both order another draft. Yes.
And then they order a draft, they're like, wow, you're starting early. And I'm just going... There's a beer by your hand! Either the continuity editor f***ed up, or these people don't understand the concept of early and starting. I mean, it's like halfway through your second drink. You're starting now. I did think, hey, that might be orange juice, that might be something else, that is... But no, when they bring the beer, it's in an identical mug, it's the identical colour.
Yeah.
It's a beer they've got already.
Yeah, probably.
So yeah, this is now sort of either the middle of the morning or the mid-afternoon, and they've decided that they're going to get pissed together while eating, what's the hot
They're having barbecue.
Yeah. I thought it had a specific name when you have a hot griddle in the middle of the table, and they just bring you the raw meat to cook. So what you're basically saying
is what it would be called in Japan. Lazy. Without anything really obvious, like the restaurant they're in is not super stylized and everything, so I don't know if it's Korean barbecue.
Or we really only get to see a booth.
Could be. I mean, it's they're doing the usual thing, though, of one person is nicking all the meat, and the other person's getting pissed at them. LV is nicking all the meat away from Haruka. But yeah, anyway, it's just sort of like, I always just call it open barbecue, where they're cooking it on the table. and she eats the meat because the person who is willing to sort of make sure that it's not raw can just eat it immediately, and the other person's like, oh, I was thinking that still had like a few more seconds to go.
See, that's probably why I've never been, because I like my meat cooked quite thoroughly, so I'm fairly sure that all of it would get snatched up before it gets to my ideal cooked nature. But I'm also terrible at sharing.
The whole idea, of course, that's why it's fine in Asia, because you've got to be like considerate for everyone. But yeah, it's a good way of showing like it's a good thing that you see in Asian media of showing contention, where you have friends and they're eating this style of barbecue, and one person is just nicking all the meat. For some reason, the meat is considered better than the vegetables. I've never got this, but yeah, nicking all the meat to.
I understand that one.
Again, showing that LV is perhaps a little bit pissed because she isn't being told about everything, because it does seem that LV is freelance still for this bit.
Well, no, actually, this is the bit where Haruka says, I heard you applied for a transfer.
Oh, yes, yeah. This is the bit where she says, I heard you applied for a transfer. So she might be probably where she's going to start joining Terra.
Yeah, the regular military and has applied for a transfer, we assume, to Terra, or it probably wouldn't have been mentioned. Yes, this is also when LV points out that Ayato doesn't really seem to like her very much. And this immediately, cuts really deep with Haruka.
Yep.
So LV straight up saying, hey, you got tits? Try using them. He does seem to like them.
It does sound very different than the Japanese one. He says, you seem to have lost him as a good person. You should try and get to him as a good woman. So in that one, it seems more like...
Doesn't say good, yeah.
It seems... I think the intention there is... You still have the opportunity to try and seduce him while you probably can't be his friend because he doesn't trust you.
Yeah, that's pretty much what Elvy's saying here.
Which is like, oh god, that's Elvy. I guess Elvy is like full on Shotokan as well. They've formed their Shotokan alliance of let's get the young men while they're young.
I think that's why they're friends. Yeah. Frankly,
Elvy is younger. I think Elvy is 27.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I think
Elvy being a good pilot at that age, though, no problems there. It's the rank.
Assuming she's like super genius and is willing to go and fight the aliens, which I imagine might be on a volunteer basis.
Yeah.
I think that's why she's like risen so high.
Well, she was squad leader, so she's certainly. You wouldn't be able to get there without leadership skills and actual piloting skills, I wouldn't have thought.
And also, let's not forget, fighting the Mullions probably produces a lot of dead pilots, which changes the median age.
Yeah, and I'm certainly not going to argue, though, that that's why Terra is so full of young people. Because, frankly, there's not a lot of turnover for the general operations staff who aren't on the front lines. So... We then...
So that was a very funny scene, by the way. It's just this little scene of them sharing information, basically showing that Haruka's really hurt, that she didn't get along with Ayato. Ayato sort of lost faith in her. And LV sort of going, come on, man, we're part of the Shotokan Club. You gotta jump that 17-year-old while he's still underage.
We then cut back to...
By the way, can I just say, we make a lot of underage jokes because of anime and it's anime's tendency to do this. We are not condoning any of this actual underagey stuff. Okay?
Well, you're not. My girlfriend's 5 years younger than me.
Yeah, your girlfriend's 5 years younger than you, but she's still over 18. We are not condoning the under 18ness of this, alright?
No, we are not. We're not.
We are not.
We are
but
certainly
it is,
only
I
condoning
think,
the over 18 aspects of the 29-year-old. To be fair, if
it is fun to make fun of in RahXephon.
Yeah, well, when you're 29 and have an 18-year-old girlfriend, I'll remind you of this conversation.
Wait, sorry, is your girlfriend 18?
No.
No, yeah.
She's 23.
Yeah, she's 23. Yeah.
Yeah, no. I'm saying that you still got the 29 year to go and do all your protagonist stuff. You could get your giant robot and your giant 18-year-old girlfriend because everything's giant when you're 29.
So now we're back with Ayato, Itsuki, and Sayako.
Actually, we briefly go back to the Major here, saying.
Do we?
Well, yeah, for a couple of lines of graphs of, hey, did you know that the RahXephon and Ayato are linked? The petrification is because he's sad, and that's why we're being nice to him. It's basically him saying, hey, we're not being nice because we're nice. God, no.
No. I think the whole thing is he's saying we're being nice because that's the best way to get the RahXephon moving.
Yeah,
rather than being more horrible to him.
I think, in my cynical way, right, I do think that they are being nice because, well, I do think the Major's a nice person. I think he's driven and he's sure he's got to have, had a bit of drive to him and a bit of ruthlessness to get to the position he's in. But I do think genuinely deep down he's a nice guy. But there is sort of an ongoing theme around this sort of time of you just kind of think, is that why everyone's being nice to him? Is that why Itsuki's being nice to him? Is that why Sayoko's being nice to him? Is that why everyone... If the RahXephon is based on... I personally would feel a little paranoid if anyone told me that the giant machine that is humanity's only hope depends on people being nice to me. Would you not then question people who are being nice to you and their motivations for such?
Thankfully, that's why Ayato actually never hears about this petrification problem at all the entire episode.
Yeah. I know. It would kind of stem his nice, trustworthy friendships that are starting up, really. If he was told that there may be that all of these are completely pragmatic views about whether or not you want everyone to die in their beds from Moolian invaders. So we then have Ayato given a gift from Kwon. It's a pink suitcase with holes in it.
Yep.
And Ayato then remarks about being taken to the concentration camp, which I actually thought was a very decent reference here. That really is what you'd expect at this point for him.
Well, no, he does know, because he has done a little bit of research, so he does know that everyone thinks everyone in Tokyo Jupiter is an enemy. So he's still... That's the reason why he feels like he's, being attacked by everyone, is because he didn't realise that everyone outside probably thinks of him as an enemy combatant. And so, upon realising this, he becomes very guarded. As I think it is one of the things that RahXephon probably doesn't emphasise enough, that's the reason why he feels quite so blah at everyone.
I do like it, though. I think it's a good character point here, that he does end up closing himself off. And the thing is, at that point, he does find it difficult to identify who is being a decent person, really, because he sees ulterior motives everywhere now. And he does tar a lot of people with the same brush. He's got no real evidence, for example. He's annoyed at Haruka because of last episode when Haruka said, "You don't think I'm like that?" He said no, and then he decides that being locked in a room was probably her fault.
Yeah.
I mean, there's clearly no other explanation. She left the room locked. Nobody has invented remote controls whatsoever as such. Clearly, she locked you in. So... yeah, I do think at this point, him lashing out everywhere, it's probably quite a teenage thing, I think. But I like the fact that he just is questioning everything and that he is distrustful of everyone, but he does take it a bit far. We then have, after this concentration camp, Itsuki assures him that this place is very nice. We're very nice. Everyone is very nice. Please stop turning your robot to stone. We're all nice.
Hey, I don't think he's... I think Itsuki's very confident about what he's doing. So I don't think... Itsuki has that sort of undertone to what he's saying. But yeah, he's genuinely trying to make Ayato like the situation he is in.
Yeah, he's genuinely saying, we're in a very nice place. It's a beautiful place, you're not... And he's incredibly dismissive of Ayato's pessimism as well. And he's like, I'm going to a concentration camp. She goes, oh no, it's lovely here. Look at the lovely birds, look at the lovely sea. Would you like to go back in my lovely boat? So, at which point we see Megumi walking up the massive, massive hill. Sayoko looks at this hill and goes, wow, that's incredibly steep. I don't want to drive up this incredibly steep hill. Let's make them walk, because walking is easier.
You saw the kind of car she has. It's a very low sports car.
Yeah,
that's probably going to scrape against the hills if they try and drive it up like that.
Yeah, probably. But I do love the idea of, I don't want to damage my car, and as such, we're going to send them a massive walk up the place that we clearly wouldn't like to drive that far.
Megumi was already going to walk it anyway.
Yeah, but that's because she's cheap. Well, to be fair, it's because she's young. But you'd have hoped they'd have had a bus or something, but they do seem to live miles out of the middle of nowhere. So, this is when Itsuki goes, hey, you! He's living with you. You can take him from here. Yeah, and just immediately dumps Ayato onto Megumi, who have a big... This is the thing, right? In almost every series that you have this sort of relationship, and by this sort of relationship I mean, hey, nice to meet you. I don't like you either. Hey, let's not like each other at all for 99% of the show, and then suddenly we fall in love and at the end we're together.
Yeah.
That's a bit of an anime cliche that's always kind of bothered me.
I think that's a bit of a romantic...
I don't think you need...
Go on.
Yeah.
I think it's a romantic
I'm
cliche that's been in a lot of stuff, not just anime.
No, I completely agree with you. It's the whole, hey, there's tension, hey, we fight all the time, and hey, at the end we're randomly in love. It's not any good, in my view. Anytime a film does it, or a TV, or a book, or anything like that, it's just sort of like, ugh, are you kidding me? Do we have to do this? Do we have to have 90% of this book being, I hate you too. Oh, I can't stop thinking about that person. It's probably because I hate them so much. That's why they're on my mind all the time. And I probably imagine them without clothes because I want them to be cold because I hate them. Yeah, that'll be it. Totally that. So, yeah. Here we have the absolutely generic from every bad romantic scene ever. Hey, we're totally not attracted to one another. We completely hate each other. Antagonists in between the two. Which I like the fact that Itsuki completely calls them out on. As soon as they start doing this, he goes, "You guys make a cute couple."
They're like, "Ah!" And you get a nice little, that's the end of the scene actually, where they go, "Ah!" Because then we meet Professor Shogo Rikto.
Yes, and Rikto is mostly referred to by Uncle for the whole time. He is the uncle of Megumi, and he is the man who Ayato is living with. Far as I can tell, either Ayato lives alone next door to Megumi, because he definitely lives next door to Megumi.
Yeah.
But I find it difficult to note where Ayato lives in comparison to the uncle.
I think he lives in the same sort of main building as the uncle.
Yeah, because I thought, as far as I can tell, he lives with Mitsuki in one building, and Megumi lives with her sister in the next door building. So yeah, it's well established that Megumi lives next door, definitely doesn't live with Ayato. Everyone shut up, stop saying I live with him, pout, pout, pout. And also warns him off peeping. It's very notable that she says, you don't try and sneak in, you don't try and peep, my big sister lives with me and she'll shoot you. But maybe not that last bit. But yes, after being told that you definitely can't peep and you definitely can't sneak in, they then arrive back at the place and...
Whoa! Before we get to that bit, the first bit where we're first introduced to Rikdo, we see my favourite piece of animation that is repeated throughout this series, which is the inkstone, which is Shogo rubbing his inkstone, not like that, don't get a pervy idea, listeners. He's moving basically the inkstone in water to grind it up and make more ink for his calligraphy. And we see this a lot, I think, over the course of the series, and I just really like it.
He's in it.
It's a very nice sort of meditative piece of animation. And I just like the way the water looks, like the little droplets of ink that sort of...
It is very well
built
animated,
up.
and the thing is that because it's the same angle every time in the same room with the same character, they can just reuse the animation repeatedly.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they just reused it.
They took, like, the budget of doing this 50 times, and instead of this one scene having one scene's worth of budget, it has 50 times the budget because they can reuse it every single time.
Well, yeah, but I like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like it. It's a great little scene, that one.
It's because they pick when they use it, and I think when he's imparting some old man wisdom,
Old man wisdom is the best wisdom.
he does...
When you get old, you just inherit old man wisdom.
I don't know, I could do with some of that wisdom right now.
Maybe you need to be older.
No.
Give your dad 10 years.
I need to apply it now. I need to apply the wisdom now.
Okay, try and get your dad to be older. Then he might suddenly develop old man wisdom.
No.
But
it can't be your actual dad. That ruins the whole thematic thing of it, isn't it? You got to reject your dad. That's what all the art says.
Oh yeah, you have to reject your father and find a surrogate father who has old man wisdom. Maybe they've got old man wisdom because they were always rejected by their own children. Yeah. That's what happens. They reach a certain age, their own children reject them as they themselves rejected their own father. But then they remembered that nice old man that they met who imparted old man wisdom and think, when I meet a young man who has left his father as I left mine, I will be that old man who has old man wisdom. And so the cycle will continue. But yeah, he says, I want you to treat this like it's a relative's place. Like we're your relatives. You should totally treat me like a relative. And he goes, no, I don't understand. I don't have any relatives. I just don't understand relatives or anything similar.
He doesn't say it like that. He says, I've never visited any relatives.
Yeah.
Gives him cause
which is
for
very
pause.
sad.
It's very pleasant. Well, of course, he hasn't, because he's just lived with his mother.
Yeah, his mother and her lies. Lies and her lies and her... Anyway. So, yes. The Uncle sends Megumi out to show Ayato around the general area.
Which means the road.
Yes, she shows him the lovely, lovely road.
And the corner shop.
No, she doesn't intentionally show him the corner shop.
Oh, yeah,
she just shows him the road. She's like, hey, here's our road, here is the cliff. The cliff that we have. What a wonderful cliff it is. And at which point Ayato then says, do you know what? Your roads and your cliffs bore me. I'm going. And she falls off to the cliff. Luckily, she falls off backwards rather than forwards.
Again, this isn't helpful for people who might not want to watch RahXephon to follow on. They actually have a proper conversation on the road.
No, they don't. They just cut to the cliffs. They have a proper conversation after this, looking off the cliff.
They do have a conversation. There's a reason why he turns away, and she turns back and stuff.
Okay, fair enough. You say it then.
No, that's the problem. I don't remember.
I don't remember. That's why I skipped it.
I thought you had a.
Look, you have no idea how.
Perfect.
I didn't keep perfect notes. I never said perfect. I said I've made a lot of notes, and I have. But,
well, I'm very sorry. I forgot. Something about. Oh God, no! It's just completely escaped me because it really did not impact me that well.
I didn't think it was that notable. This is the thing. It's just them fighting more, and they're fighting all the bloody time.
See, this is why I think we should perhaps do it like episode by episode almost instead of 2 episodes, just because even though they're only 20 minutes long each. But I always feel bad when I was like this scene, and I was like, they have a discussion, they have a bit of a falling out, and Ayato turns away, and is like, grr. And she turns back because she doesn't want to disappoint her uncle by driving Ayato away, and that causes her to fall off. And then they get caught in the rain.
Yes. So, getting caught in the rain means they run to the most secure corner shop you will ever see. It's a shop on the road with no staff members. And this appears to be the shop of the future, because in the future, everything is paid for by card, and then you get given it. So you don't even have to stock your shops. I looked at this, and at first I was like, that's an incredibly insecure shop that could completely be stolen from all the time. And then I realised, no, you can't. Because even when she uses her card to open the fridge to get a drink, each of the drinks are held down with little bars, which only one of which will retract every time you buy a drink.
Yep.
So this is an incredibly well-made shop that if you own, you can just sit in the back and not have to listen to damp teenagers pout at one another and, flirt ineffectually.
Yeah, that is a very nice and well-designed Ramune fridge, which seems to only stock that. All it's got in it is Ramune. I realised we wanted to get some Ramune to drink
with this scene, pretty much.
With this scene, or during this podcast, and I forgot the reason we couldn't find the marble when we were looking at them at the convention. For
those who don't know what Ramune noodle is, it's a drink with a marble in it for no good reason.
Yeah, you
have to lock the marble into place in order to drink from it.
In order to drink it. It's got lots of different flavours. It's pretty nice. I prefer it to Pocari Sweat. So, if you want me to do an ad for you for this thing there, Ramune, why not?
I don't know.
Got to look for sponsorship for this podcast, man. So, yeah, Ramune.
Well, I personally have not tried Pocari Sweat, and I'm not sure I ever will, considering just the name of it.
Well, it doesn't have. Well, it sounds like a foreign word to Japanese, and it's like it's a revitalizing soda. It sounds alright. It tastes alright, Pocari, but it's not for me. It's a bit clear and too sweet, whereas Ramune is like my kind of.
That's my kind of thing.
Yeah, I know. Pocari's never been like the right kind of taste for me. The marble is you actually push it in with the cap. In order to knock the marble in. That's why when we were looking to buy them, we thought maybe Ramune had moved on since we had bought it last, and we're like, oh God, have we become old and they don't have the marble in it anymore because they've realised it's a dumb thing to do with a drink.
It's a bloody stupid thing to do with a drink.
So
I'm sorry, I know it's their iconic thing, but it's bloody stupid.
Yeah. So I'll probably see if I can buy some at least for me to drink while we have this podcast. Product placement aside, yeah, she introduces him. They have a little bit of
some more flirting.
Some more flirting and sort of some more of the camera sort of looking at all the water falling off. You
see, that one again is Ayato's point of view. You can clearly see that it's deliberately the camera is going, this is what Ayato's looking at. He's looking at the attractive young girl who's completely soaking wet in a mostly see-through top.
Which is like, ugh.
Yeah.
But But he keeps on offering her a handkerchief, and she keeps on saying no. And some other girls who are clearly in school uniform say, "Oh, look, there's the
dropout."
They call it the dropout, do they?
They do. So
in the subtitles, it's school phobic.
Oh no, they say, here's the school phobic. Is he a dropout like you?
Yeah, because of course the idea, the way truancy is dealt with in Japan is very different to the way it's dealt with in America and the UK, where it's actually illegal. In Japan, it's not strictly illegal.
Was it not?
No, you have a number of days that you have to be present in order to qualify to graduate. But other than that,
if you do your exams and you do the minimum days, it's fine.
You don't even, I think for middle school, you don't even need to pass the exams, because they assume you want to try and pass those exams, because you've got to also do like your high school exams. So it's like, yeah, if you're going to pass the high school exams, which you want to do if you want to get into high school, you're going to try and pass the middle school exams. And you've got to remember, middle school is the end for compulsory education.
Oh yeah, I always forget that.
High school isn't compulsory, so that's why she's working part-time in the military. But yeah, she has that, and he says, oh, so that's why you don't want to go to school. So that's why you're working part-time in the military. And she's like, don't you think you can just work me out from that? And he's like, sorry.
Yeah. The thing is, though, I think that's quite a strong reaction from her.
Mm.
Really. Because he's not trying to work her out as in, oh, I know everything about you. Which is what she's implying there. Mm. But no, he's saying, oh, so you don't go to school then? That's it. That's the entirety of it. You don't go to school, you work for the military instead then. And frankly, if you're going to be living weird / next door to someone, getting to know them is the entire point of this walk. Mm. Really. We then have Ayato point blank fail to drink the ramen soda.
Yes, because he cannot fit the marble into the place.
Well, no, he wasn't aware he had to try. And in fairness, if I hadn't have seen RahXephon growing up as a young man, I would also have had no clue how to drink ramen when I first got it.
Right.
I don't think it's particularly obvious. There's not many drinks that say, hey, why don't we put something in here that will stop people being able to drink it?
He does indeed fail.
But, Ayato essentially brings up, once again, he doesn't have a place he belongs, he doesn't have anywhere he can have. And Megumi also is very surprised that he went to high school. She didn't really seem to think, as I assume most people don't, that Tokyo Jupiter is carrying on as normal.
Yes,
really.
Because no one knows not many people seem to know what's happening inside Tokyo Jupiter, apart from like the intelligence people and the people in Tokyo Jupiter. They all assume, because out of Tokyo Jupiter come terrifying Mulian clay robots, that they think, of course, that, well, they must all be evil ka-ha-ha-ha aliens. And so he goes, do they have high schools in there? And he goes, of course they do. So,
and he once again reiterates his desire to return.
Well, because it's his home.
Luckily, though, he now has a major reason to stay. He has the ugliest cat in the world!
Yes, he opens his... we cut back into him opening his suitcase, and the ugliest cat in the world pops out, totally fine after being in there for probably several hours. So...
No. Well, to be fair, it was sitting on the ugliest dressing gown in the world, which Quan has apparently packed for him, and he has no real clue why, but also has packed the ugliest clothes in the world, which after Haruka made him change out of in episode 3, he apparently decided to keep.
Oh yes, he still has all of those ugly
Why
clothes.
does he have them?
Quite clearly, for JoJo cosplay. I said
exactly.
This. He looks like he's in...
But it's just a case of, okay, so Haruka sees you in them and says, oh, hells no, makes you change. You've worn them for about a minute. And you bring them with you to the ship. You bring them with you all throughout the whole thing. And then finally, Quan's like, yeah, he'll want these. He'll want these incredibly ugly clothes.
I would say that does sound exactly like the sort of thing Quan would do.
It does, but it doesn't explain how the hell they got onto the ship in the first place for Quan to pack for him. Anyway, so
yes, when they burnt, when Haruka burnt all the evidence.
You would have thought so, but no. Apparently, that was the one bit of evidence she didn't want burning. Probably because it makes him look so ugly that no one would ever imagine that she jumped him. But yeah. So as soon as they find the kitty, there's a loud noise from the front door, and the drunks are home. Hooray!
Yes,
And
both
it is
Haruka
revealed that,
and LV turn up.
yeah, it's probably something that I know Lewis mentioned it earlier. I'm not sure he's going to cut it from the final edit or not. But yes, Megami is Haruka's sister, little sister.
Yeah.
So they are both Shtos, and they live here in this massively drunken place.
I don't think it's those two that are really drunk, and even then, it's really only LV that's really drunk. In a sadly,
LV's fucking wasted.
In a sadly not very funny way in the Japanese dub. She doesn't really. Her voice doesn't even really match the animation very well. I felt very bad when I saw her hit on Ayato.
Oh, okay. Well, that is the only real thing that she does. She gets drunk and then tries to sleep with Ayato.
Yeah, try to say, hey, do you want a dogfight tonight?
All night long. Which is a weird... What did you say she was, 27?
Yeah. That's alright.
Yeah, 10
no,
years.
he's still under
17.
18. Sorry, we should go. He's still under 18.
Stop, yeah. You made sure we had this big long section of we don't condone the underage thing, and then you're just like, yeah, it's fine. Make up your bloody mind first. Right, so we then have Haruka's reaction to the cat's return, being amazingly happy. Oh good, the cat's back, and Ayato for some reason, but mostly the kitty's here. Yeah. So at which point we have this welcome home. Now, welcome home is something that's going to occur a lot. And we have Ayato saying it to Haruka. It's welcome home, and the callback line being I'm home. And that's going to come up a lot.
And
that's pretty much their recurring greeting at this point.
But yeah, very nice little bit of them handing each of him saying, look, I'll look after that really ugly cat. And another fan service point, actually, because the cat does jump to Haruka and nicely tries to pull down her top for us. So we can even see her underwear. And I was like, what was the point of that? Someone literally had to animate that, which meant someone in a meeting with many different people said
professional adults
of other professional adults in the animation community when
so do you know for our psychological drama,
hey,
I think we should have the cat pull down her top.
Well, no, this is the thing. No configuration does this make sense. Does the writer or the storyboard artist go, right, okay, we're going to come to this bit, and you're in charge of this scene, Jeff. Could you... the cat's going to lump down, and he's going to pull down her top just a bit, so we'll just need 3 frames so we can see her underwear. And moving on. And nor does it, during the period of working out the key animation, it's even worse if the animator goes, hey, look, I've tacked on we had a few extra frames in the budget, so I've added these cells of her underwear coming down. That's pretty cool, right? Just showing it to the episode director, and the episode's director yeah, man, that's cool. It's like, f*** off, you idiots.
I think she briefed the cat earlier. I think she came home actually earlier that night and said to the cat, look, I've got to try and leave this whole good person thing behind and try the woman side of things, but it's really obvious if I pull down my top. So how about you pull down my top whenever Ayato's near? Good kitty, clever kitty.
Well, its ears are so big, she probably only needed to whisper that from outside the door, and the cat knew.
That's entirely true. She probably just said it in a restaurant in the city nearby.
Yeah.
And the cat was just like, Maybe it's like Lassie.
For those who might want to get Ramune in the UK, sorry, I've just been doing a little bit of extra research. It can actually cost something like friggin' 50 quid to get enough, because you want to get a bulk amount, because this is an unusual drink. To get something like 18 bottles can cost you into the 50s.
That is a ridiculously expensive drink.
But I have found on Amazon, sold by Sushi for £28.80, a 9-bottle kit. I'm gonna grab that, and so next episode, hopefully by then, I will have some Ramune for us all. While we're going through it, the important thing about this scene where they're having dinner and LV's hitting on Ayato and everything is Ayato says, Itsuki was right, the fish here is really good. Which I just realised we didn't mention. Itsuki does mention that the fish where Ayato is going is really good. But that is important, because Ayato means Ayato is finally eating again.
Oh, yes. I didn't even realise that.
Mm.
Yeah, nice one.
Yeah, so it shows that Ayato is eating again, which means he's more comfortable and he's more relaxed and he likes the people he's with. And like he says, welcome back to Haruka, who he was quite standoffish to at the beginning. So it shows that he's mellowing out and he's starting to believe that maybe he isn't a complete prisoner, that maybe people here kind of care for him and don't see him as an enemy.
He does react that this is like a nice family dinner, and at which point Ritsuko takes him aside into the calligraphy room. You know, when we get rich enough from this podcast, clearly, that we can buy a massive house, we should get a calligraphy room each in our houses. Because frankly, having a calligraphy room is f***ing awesome.
That would just be mine.
Where you can go and rub your inkstones. Because you've got to say that when you have nice formal business dinners. Like,
excuse me,
I'm just... room? That's my calligraphy room. That's alright. Rub my inkstones and handle my brushwork.
I would just say that. I've just got to go and rub my inkstone.
I'm afraid my ink's drying out. I need some more watery ink all over the place.
I certainly would buy the little kimono that Richter wears. That's my favourite sort of thing to lounge about the house in.
Yes, it does seem like comfortable loungewear, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I tend to use a dressing gown for much the same effect, but...
Well, the thing with that is that's too long. That comes with trousers, which I like. Yeah. His little sort of... I guess it's actually more like a gi or something, but yeah. So yeah, he's chatting to Ayato.
Yes, this is when he gives Ayato something. He says, "Oh, go and put this on the door, would you? It's a sign to show you live here." Yeah. So yeah, he passes him a sign with Ayato's name on it, and genuinely, this is a touching moment.
It's very touching, yeah. Especially because he's pretty good calligrapher.
Oh yeah, and it's welcome. This is just welcome to our family. This isn't you're a guest. This is your home. Which the whole thing of this episode is really establishing him as having a home here and the area that he's in. And I think it's a nice roundup, and it also shows the uncle, really nice as well. How accepting and how generous he is straight away. So yeah, this is then Ayato seeing the sign responds with, "Do you know what time it is?" Referring to the, "Hey, set your bitch clock to our bitch ass time, you little whiny bitch."
Again, this is yet another sort of Ling-on where, of course, he is now setting his watch to the correct time.
Yes, which is a nice thing. And this is clearly... Now, it's quite useful that we have such a convenient giant robot mechanism to see whether Ayato's faking it or not.
Yeah,
So
he's
going
not
back
faking
to
it.
the giant robot, we have a look, and it's saying no on the faking it scale. Ayato is genuinely feeling at home, and as such, the robot is defrosting in the giant water pool and is no longer becoming petrified.
Yeah, Major Yakumo's there. He's sort of like, "Ooh, there's a bit of a chill," and he turns around, and all of a sudden the RahXephon's like totally normal again.
Yeah, it's fine now.
Yeah.
And he says, "I guess using Megu was the right idea," which, again, I think reinforces the thing of it does seem a little calculated.
It is a little calculated, but for some reason, when the Major does it, he feels kind of genuine and nice. He does do some smarmy crap later on, some like carefully, "Ooh, haha, oh, I see, you clever bastard" stuff, but he's so nice. He can pull off that line and it doesn't seem like super evil. It's more sort of like...
No, I think if you'd had any other character saying it, Itsuki or Jin in particular, it would have totally been a very sinister thing. But with him, it's just like, I tried a few strategies and it turns out that being nice one worked. You know? It's more like a teacher saying, "Hey, I guess offering them a reward rather than a punishment made them study for the exams harder," sort of thing, doesn't it?
Exactly.
But we then cut to Ayato, who's apparently been learning heavily from Itsuki that when you are told not to do something, you must immediately do that thing.
Yes,
because, of course, the very next thing we see is him peeping in on Megumi.
Well, actually, I just realised one important thing we missed out from him and Megumi's conversation is he's doing the whole landscape look thing where you put your thumb and your index fingers together so that your thumb is touching the index finger of the other hand to make a little rectangle, imaginary canvas. And he was looking at things while he was talking to Megumi. She said, "Are you a photographer?"
"I'm a painter."
And he says, "No, I'm a painter, or I'm a high school student who wishes he was a painter." And then you see him in what I think is probably really creepy, but for some reason the way it's portrayed, and again, Ayato gets away with this because he's dreamy looking.
He's a protagonist.
He looks... No, it's not because he's a protagonist, because I've seen plenty of protagonists who I've gone, ugh. But, because he's going like that, Megumi down from where his room is, looking down at Megumi and sort of framing her. And she goes, "Ugh!" and slams it. And for some reason I was thinking, that's kind of a cute interaction. And not what I really should be thinking, which is, for God's sake, Ayato, 1, she told you don't do that. And 2, that's creepy anyway.
Yeah. The thing is, though, right, I agree with you there. It
Make a
does seem
good
like
picture.
it's quite a nice interaction. Stop creeping me out in the background. No, it is quite a nice interaction between them on that scene of just, hey, look at us, we're so casual and close now, I'm allowed to do this. And she's like, blah, blah, blah. But he's basically saying, I can see in your bedroom. Look where I am.
Yeah.
So it could be far, far more sinister than it's presented, that he is completely able to peep on her.
In terms of the base
will.
actions, I think it is kind of juvenile. But even then...
Well, it is, yeah.
Was there something else after that? Or yes, no.
Yeah.
After that, we get the real creepy thing, where you have Kwon... We're back in Itsuki's place, which again is actually a pretty nice place. We didn't mention to say, it's a very nice sort of open plan.
I'd quite like to live there. It's a very nice place. But,
very envious of Itsuki's
we discover that Kwon packed the ugliest dressing gown in the world because that's the only one she's aware men wear, because Itsuki turns up in the ugliest dressing gown in the world.
Itsuki does look very odd in this scene.
Everyone looks stupid in that dressing gown. I'm not sure you could find anyone that suits.
And she's there playing the piano.
It's a green dressing gown with like yellow ruffs and ruffles on all of the arms and the lining. It's just stupid looking.
Yeah.
But yeah, even if you haven't watched RahXephon, just see if you can Google an image of this dress. Actually, we should try and put up a picture of this dressing gown. That picture we're using?
That's no trouble. Yeah. I'm going to put
instead of putting up a picture of the bird that the show is based on that we've been doing so far. I think for this episode, if you can see it, there should be a picture of a f***ing ugly dressing gown on the page. Job done.
Yeah.
Right.
And I will at least put an image of that ugly effing dressing gown in the show notes. Don't worry.
Good. And this is when we have further interactions of, hey, brother and sister creeping out, hey, between Kwon and Itsuki, because apparently it's like, do my hair, which requires me to be topless. Because I cannot do someone's hair unless they are topless. I've made this very, very clear, and it's probably why I got fired from that hairdresser's. But yes, he then decides to go back to his favourite topic of conversation, Jin's cherry blossom trees.
Yes, Jin's cherry trees.
Well, apparently cherry blossoms are red because there's bodies buried beneath them. But these cherry blossoms were blue. I wonder what sort of buried bodies Jin has in his garden. Dun, dun, dun! And that's the end of the episode.
Yeah, well, not only is the end of that episode, can I just say, it ends on Itsuki not only having, like, the scary shiny glasses, which is, like, required for when guys with glasses are being sinister. I mean, there's a whole language in an anime called Log Horizon, where you suddenly realise everyone in this anime, there is a cabal of dudes with, not dudes, but people, men and women, with glasses, and them adjusting their glasses to communicate, to flash each other. And Jin has that, where you've got like just this, his eyes are hidden by the glare of his glasses, and he's holding a red-coloured drink. A blood red.
You mean
Itsuki,
drink. Not Jin, by the way.
Sorry, Itsuki. Itsuki is there with his glasses, hiding his eyes, and he's holding a red-coloured drink. And I just think that's the end.
To be fair, when he first brought it in, it was blue.
No, the blue one was in a different glass and was for Kwon.
Ah, was it? Oh, so he's drinking red and Kwon's drinking blue.
I wonder what the meaning of that is.
Actually, no, I'm saying subtle as if it's not, but genuinely, I think that's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I do. I think that's a nice little touch.
And happens immediately after he talks about, I wonder what kind of bodies are buried under, Commander Jin's trees.
I think would be great is if her character just called him out on his bullshit whenever he said something like that. So it's just like, and the next scene before the episode goes, I wonder what sort of bodies are buried under him, and she just goes, Moo, what? Moolians. You're implying that Moolians are buried. You're implying that he's killed a lot of Moolians and they're buried in his garden. Well, I wasn't quite. Yes, you were. Move on.
Well, two things to that, Huw. One,
yes.
If there's one person who can out cryptic Itsuki, it's Kwon.
Yeah. That's the only way it seems like they are related.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that everyone would go, no, they're not related at all, and then you hear their f***ing bullshit.
Yeah.
Particularly their monologues.
And two is the leader of the anti-Moolian group, the head of their combat operations. He's got Moolians buried under his cherry trees. Well, good!
Frankly, he's doing his job.
He's doing
he
his
has
job.
one job, and he's doing it well. Congrats.
If his cherry trees were pink when they were, I'd say, dude, whose side are you really on?
Well, maybe he can have one blue cherry tree for all the people he's killed as part of the unit, and one red for all the people he's sent on suicide missions.
Exactly.
There you go. But no. So that was episode 5 of RahXephon, and it was so heavy on the exposition. This. I've literally got twice as much notes for this episode as I normally do for all of the other ones. Anything you want to talk about with this episode before we move on to the next?
Point of this episode was to show Ayato's uncomfortable at the start. He's comfortable at the end. That is the story of this episode, and I think that was shown very, very well. It is. Some people might say it's sudden. If you think changes in how characters act are sudden this episode, you will really hate the next episode. I think episode 5 is kind of okay. I think episode 5, very good, and I like the way it shows
I like it.
him becoming more comfortable. And like you said, that scene where Ryuto? Anyway, Shogo.
Uncle.
Shogo,
Just call him Uncle.
His first name's easy. Shogo, the scene where Shogo gives Ayato his nameplate is genuinely touching.
Yes.
And the scene where Elvie is drunk is sadly not as great as
better
I
in
remember
English.
Probably better
It's
in
better
English.
in English.
It's probably better in English. You didn't have a problem with it.
Because you're remembering it, because we watched it together in English when we last watched this, didn't we?
Yeah,
But,
I'm watching it in Japanese, and it's just, She didn't manage it that well. Other than that, I like Elvie's voice actor, but yeah.
You want to see her more genuinely drunk. That's what you want. You want her drunk on set more often. But,
I want her doing cool things in a plane more often. Moving straight on then, I guess, unless you've got some other things to say.
Episode 6, which for me is called Lost Songs, Forgotten Memories, and for Lewis was called
Obliterated Cities.
Yep.
Shometsu Toshi. In Japanese, if you can.
See, mine was really called Lost Songs, Forgotten Memories, Missing Punctuation, because there's a comma in that, or a semicolon, or something.
Seriously?
It's not just 4. No, there should be.
Oh,
sorry, I'm going.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I see
there should be, and there isn't. That's my issue with it. So, yes. So, we have our nice opening credits again, and before we get into any of the actual episode itself, we cut to a city where there is a young woman having a coffee.
Coffee at fake Starbucks. Did you notice the fake Starbucks
thing
that she has there? I couldn't pause it. I couldn't actually see, because this is the one downside of watching such an old show. The fidelity isn't good enough for me to really be 100% sure on what the fake name they had decided for Starbucks to be. But you know how Starbucks' symbol is a woman, is like a
mermaid.
A mermaid
with 2 tails in the air or something.
Yeah, with her tails. This one seems to be like a sort of dancing happy coffee bean. It's like a bean goes, hey!
Hey, listen! Do you want a coffee?
Yeah, and it looked so freaking ugly. I was glad that city disappeared.
Well, no, the city, so as Lewis established, the city gets attacked. We assume it gets attacked anyway. What actually happens is that her coffee cup sinks into the floor, and then we hear the Moulian sound of something singing, and we then switch out to the ship taking Megumi and Ayato to work. And as always, whenever they're in a scene for the vast majority of this program, they'll be arguing. So from now on, if I have not mentioned what they're doing, they were arguing. But I'm going to get tired of saying it for too long.
Well, I don't know. I think they weren't arguing this one. They were comparing things about where they live and what they do. And yeah, she said it's just weird to put soy sauce on fried shrimp, which seemed so weird
petty.
To me. It's so weird and petty to be talking about it.
You say, oh no, they weren't arguing. I'm sorry, shall I tell you how this scene opens?
Yeah.
This scene opens with him saying, I'm sure everyone does it like that. No, it's weird. How can you do that? I'm sure everyone was doing it like that 10 years ago. You just don't do it like that. That's an argument. I'm sorry. It's just them bickering.
It does seem weird because it's all about the fact that Ayato puts soy sauce on fried shrimp. Which doesn't seem... It's not what I would go with, but I've seen people do it.
I've seen people put ketchup on rice. I think that's weird. I wouldn't do it, but whatever. I don't care. It's their bloody meal. But,
Well,
anyway.
if you want some interesting thing that people generally do in Japan with rice that might be unusual to people, English-speaking people listening who are not super familiar with Japan, is to put a raw egg on it. Very often, a lot of rice a raw egg will be cracked open on it.
Yeah, that just sounds awful.
It generally just disappears into the whole melange of the thing. Particularly if you have like a proper donbori sort of thing. If you're having like a meat and then rice underneath it, meat over rice, and then you have like an egg cracked on top. Very quickly it disappears with all the stuff, and it adds a nice sort of unifying flavour, and it gunks up the rice. It's kind of nice.
To be fair, I like cooked food. I'm not a huge fan of raw anything.
Everything else is cooked, by the way.
Yeah,
but the
raw
egg is
egg.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, so we have Kim, the character we mentioned previously. She's the one who's, again, stupidly young for her position, but was commenting about how cute Ayato is to Megami in the previous episode. So she's on the ship that goes to work, and then says, "Hey, you're fighting. You're clearly a couple. Why, look at you coming into work together. You even live together. Oh, whoa, ho, ho, ho."
And they go, "Oh no, we're not."
Yeah, they have their typical stereotyped freak out about, "We're not a couple, and we're certainly not in any way attracted to one another. That's just a coincidence." But she then decides to hit on Ayato just because he's there, I think. Really, I mean, he is a protagonist.
You need a better reason?
Well, no, exactly. But says I wouldn't mind. I quite like him, and he could be my cute pilot. At which point Ayato has a bit of a power and goes, "I'm not going to pilot." What, you mean that one thing that you can do? Yeah, that. No.
Yeah, he seems to all of a sudden really get murked, because I was like, well, I can understand him having a bad experience piloting the first time. The second time he piloted didn't seem to be too bad an experience.
Nah, and yeah, I mean, he fought the Dole and beat. Well, it's the third time technically. I think was fine, really. And he beats the Dole and he saves everyone. He manages to have a better priority at that point. I mean, he's useful. Frankly, if you are, seen as an enemy combatant and also, would you not think he'd want to be useful? He'd want to say, "Hey,
I think he wants to be useful.
Why you treat me well."
He just doesn't want to pilot the RahXephon. He never really says why.
Doesn't ever say why. He just doesn't.
This is a big problem.
He decides arbitrarily, "I don't want to pilot the damn thing."
Which is a real problem with this episode.
What, his whims change?
Yeah, Ayato's whims poison this episode, just so you guys know.
Yeah, I actually quite like this episode, to be fair, for the Kim stuff, because I quite like Kim as a character.
Kim is lovely. Kim is another favourite character of mine.
Yeah, she's in this episode, and then she pretty much buggers off for the whole rest of the series till the end.
Yeah. Well, everyone gets their own little special episode, don't they?
Yeah, which I do like. I do like that everyone has a bit of screen time. But, so what we have is Ayato bitching about not piloting, and then we cut to the news, and the news is saying, "Hey, so there was that operation where everyone had a big fight with the Moulians, and it looks like that might have pissed them off. Here's the military."
Well, no, here's Terra.
No, that was the generic military, wasn't it? Testing all their tanks and stuff. And then it cuts to the Terra press conference. Oh, sorry, yeah. That's what I mean was the press conference. Oh, yes. No, sorry. He says, yes, the army is testing all their new weaponry. It looks like we're going to have to fight the Moulians, and it looks like someone's kicked the hornet's nest. Here are the people who kicked the hornet's nest. Terra! Let's put them on some sort of interrogation press conference. And this is when we're first introduced to Shiro Watari, who may be the coolest looking character in this series, largely because of his grey hair and eye patch.
Sort of see-through eye patch as well that he has.
Yeah, I like eye patches.
It's never really explained. In a way, it could be that he has like a sensitivity in that eye, which is nice. But yes, it is very hard to explain, if you don't see him this episode, how terrifyingly cool Shiro Watari is. For starters, he's called Shiro, which is a cool... I'm looking at how it's written here. It is not written the usual way I am familiar with writing Shiro, so it's not written like in the cool to look after something way. So I wonder...
Shiro is wolf, isn't it?
I'm just checking. Shiro. But yes, he's got like this kind of priest-looking look, hasn't he? He's got this priest-looking look. Okay, it's spelled, the first character, the she, is the she in samurai, which is the little cross-shaped one. And the other one is Ichiro, which is the Chinese character for Lang, which is youth.
So he's a young samurai.
Yeah,
despite being probably the oldest character in this.
Look, see, I didn't even really know if his name was going to be cool, And yes, he's even written Shiro in a cool way. He's got
he is a very cool
He's got this
character.
black jacket with a faux priest collar, and as we said, he's got the cool see-through eye patch. He's actually really... The only uncool thing is he's quite demure and flat. But he's got kind of like a dry sense of humour, hasn't he?
Well, no, I actually think it's really it's nice the way his there is a bit of a dissonance between his personality and his appearance. He looks like he's the stern guy who will shoot you. Really, frankly, to be fair.
But that's actually more Jin.
Exactly. He looks like he is Jin's partner, and he and Jin are two of a kind and go off together. And yeah, there's quite a lot in this episode which shows them bonding and that they clearly have a shared history and all the rest of it. But his personality is not Jin. He isn't cold. He isn't aloof, and he certainly isn't anywhere standoffish with anyone. He is always completely relaxed. He's very approachable. He's very friendly with everyone. So, yeah, even at this point, you see him in the press conference making jokes and chatting with the journalists. So you have the terror team watching the press conference while they're on it, and you have the journalist who is the only non-generic looking journalist, and as such will definitely not become a major character, standing up and saying, "Hi, every other journalist just asked their question, but I'm actually going to say my name and the newspaper I work for. And then I'm going to ask my question," which, once again, I mean, really, he's the only one who has a different appearance and actually says his bloody name. So, yeah, he will introduce properly when he's actually turns up later in the series, because, spoiler alert, he will.
Sorry, he's kind of the Columbo of RahXephon, I see him.
I'd agree with that one. So, yeah,
But,
at this point, he stands up and says, "Hey, so the Federation sent a big escort to you and then left, completely empty. So... what did they want that you didn't let them have? Is it your big secret weapon?" And Watari then says, "Oh, big secret weapon? Must be pretty secret if I don't know and I'm the head of terror. Ha 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 ha." Which, again, is disarming, it's charming, it works very well, and in that sort of
People
press
laugh at
conference,
it.
it's really exactly what you want to do. Yeah, it's good. But, yeah, basically.
So
this guy... Yeah?
Oh, no, sorry, this is the thing. So, yes, Shiro is is like the main head of terror, but he's not like the operational head of terror, which is Jin. They're both there at the meeting. And one thing again that I like about RahXephon is this separation of like the sort of the head dude and the military sort of tactical head person are two separate jobs. And often in a big robot show and a sci-fi show, they don't separate these two jobs when they really would be separate, because it's Jin who takes care of all the, we've got to shoot down this, we've got to move these here, we've got to coordinate here, stuff like that. He's the one who talks and moves planes and men.
And Watari goes and does the press conferences, secures the budget.
And he lobbies for terror. Yeah. And he makes people, he gets money for terror, and he makes sure terror doesn't fall apart, and he provides the public face of terror, because when you start to think about it, Tokyo Jupiter is still just the size of Tokyo, which, while big, is not as big compared to the world. The rest of the world has probably got on with its life and not really thought much about the Moulians.
It's been, 7-8 years since it happened? 14.
It's been 14 years since it happened. And there are places, while there have been other places that have been infected by terror, there are other by the Moulians, there are places that haven't been. And so it does seem that Shiro's job is to just constantly say, "No, come on, dudes, this is really important." And
there's still an alien invasion.
Yeah.
There's still aliens.
There's still aliens. And there is a character that says in this scene, people think they'll just leave her well enough alone if we just ignore them. But we all know that's not true.
Yeah. Yeah, it's...
and this kind of trouble that they have to deal with.
It's the Major, actually, that says that. It's the Major saying, this country will go for peace regardless of the consequences. If there's a peaceful option, they'll try and take it. Because Japan does, at this point, want to go, can we just write Tokyo off and get on with our lives and hope they don't actually ever want any more than that?
Which is exactly what... they have to bring up, this is exactly why terror is, of course, separate from the SDF. They do say that, don't they?
Yes.
And also, that is kind of still a friction that exists between different different political leanings in Japan today about, Japanese territory. There still is groups of people who are like, "Oh no, we've got to keep our stuff at any cost," and other people who are like, "Oh well, there are people who will accuse more peaceful people in Japan of just saying, well, you just want to give up, you'll just give up land if the foreigners try and take it. And other people, in turn, called the people who say that warmongers. And this tension is very real in Japan. And I guess having stuff like that appear in anime, people probably don't realise is a lot more contentious than it might appear.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that the writers had a bit more balls than we could have given them credit
for.
Well,
than appear to us as foreigners.
Realise that.
The term of peace at any cost gets thrown around a lot more in Japan these days than it probably does get thrown around, especially in Western countries, Western developed countries.
I think particularly in the UK, I can't speak for America, but in the UK, if anybody comes bringing that sort of stuff up, the appeasement policy of the Nazis is always what's raised. They say, oh yeah, and we should have just, we appeased Hitler, that didn't work. People who grab territory always want more territory. And once you start accepting that if you're going to take territory, we're just going to go, please don't take any more, we're not going to do anything about it, they're just going to take more. So we've got that historical thing there, really, where we tried it, didn't work, and then there was the worst conflict historically to date, as people would refer to it. But moving on. Yeah, so everyone's watching the press conference, as we said, and they're basically saying terror is not perfect. It's the best we can do, but we certainly shouldn't give up on having some sort of defense against the Moulians, which seems a fairly sensible thing to me. Yeah, at this point, during the press conference, there is the report that the city we saw earlier has been attacked, and that it has had a lot of casualties. At this point, was it 6 million?
Yeah, 6 million, because it was carved into a big old city. This weird pattern, this Moulian pattern, was carved into a city. At
which point, Jin says that he wants Soichi to be the acting commander, puts the major in charge because he's not going to be able to get back in time to organise the defence against the Moulian threat. This is when we find out that the same attacker, 14 years ago, took out 8 cities and resulted in 6 million deaths.
Ah, yes, that's what it was. Yeah, there.
Yeah.
So not this one attack. That would have been a lot for one attack, but yes.
Yeah, but no, the attacks, 8 cities destroyed, 6 million people killed in the previous attacks by this.
Yes, in Australia.
They apparently, yes, for the most part, it was Australia. Yeah.
No, it was all in Australia. We see all the attack points mapped out.
Oh yeah. I thought one or two of them was in sort of New Zealand or somewhere. But no.
No, the ones
Sydney. I know Sydney's destroyed.
The ones that. Oh no, maybe no. I think the other ones that are mapped out are the ones that are shown in this new string of attacks.
So this Dolem is attacking, and because of the harmonic signature of the song,
they know
which is essentially like a fingerprint, they know it's the exact same one that attacked 14 years ago. At which point we decide to have Kim showing a bit of trauma. So we get Kim having the idea that she's clearly got a personal connection to this.
A few sepia flashbacks. There's a lot of sepia flashbacks of Kim's past in this.
Yeah, which is absolutely fine, really. But
Ayato proceeds to be kind of insensitive.
Yeah, he's being a bit of a dick, because basically you can see her tensing up, and he's like, wow, you mean 6 million people died? Yeah, they did. 6 million of them. He's like, I only thought there were 24 million. That's like 1 in every 4 people dying. That's a lot of people dying. Did you know any of those people who were dying? They were dead. They're dying. Dying and dying and dying. It's just,
you might think we're being a bit hyperbolic here. It really does feel that way. He's just a bit too excited sounding about the death of 6 million people.
I know. Especially the Chris Patton one. I can't speak for the Japanese, but the Chris Patton reading of this is very like, wow, that's amazing. I mean, he's basically like saying, oh, we're going to get a puppy in the office tonight. Really? We're going to get 6 million casualties 14 years ago? Wow! Yeah, it's just, it's a bit... And it's just also, if someone's like that, if someone's being cold, aloof, and just like really clearly does not want you to talk about this, the best thing to do is keep pushing them on it. Absolutely agree there. So, yeah, she then lashes out, which is, completely justifiable, I think.
Yeah, she says you should just fight it in the RahXephon.
Yeah, why don't you pilot? I'm not going to pilot.
Which then, again,
stupid.
Continuing to be an idiot, Ryato goes, why did you say that? I'll be damned if I'll pilot that again.
Yeah. Again, giving no damn good reason why he won't pilot.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair as well, it's not like the RahXephon... If it's a case of, but I don't want to die, and I know you don't like me bringing up Eva in this, but bring up Eva. Shinji goes, I don't really want to get in that mech because I watched the other person piloting the mech get pretty f***ed up from the previous fight. No, Ayash's experience of the RahXephon is it's an unstoppable killing machine that is the greatest armour that man has ever made.
Yeah.
He has never been even vaguely injured by it. There has never been any damage to the RahXephon by any of the enemies so far. So at this point, him not wanting to go in it is just petty.
I do agree.
Particularly when he's told that a whole fucking city has been destroyed and that nobody has any real answer of how to fight it other than the RahXephon. I mean, that's kind of what pisses me off about Ayash's character here.
Yeah.
Because if he had a legitimate reason not to want to pilot it, other than just pettiness, we'd probably give him a pass. But at the minute, it literally just looks like he's going, nuh-uh, I don't want to pilot.
That is exactly the problem. Not wanting to pilot the robot is actually something that Eva, I think, did very, very well. I mean, you really understand why Shinji doesn't want to pilot the Evangelion.
And you also understand why he does go in it, because he wants to actually... Yeah, it's like, if you don't pilot, then you can go. There's no point in you being here.
Yeah.
Off. His abandonment issues really stress that is the worst thing for him. Whereas, if they'd actually said, if you don't pilot, then we'll ship you off to a concentration camp. You know, but it's not. There's never any implication of that.
There's not.
I mean, Kim does say, what are you even going to do? You have no point. And he goes, I'll work. I'm not going to pilot. And, then he...
Not wanting to... Can I just say it was the thing I wanted to... Not wanting to pilot your giant robot is a staple of, like, super robot shows. There is a bit, like, near the beginning where your main pilot will not want to, and they need to be shown through friendship, or duty, or being slapped in the face in the case of Gundam, which is always one of the better ones. I don't want to pilot it. Slap through the face!
Oh, if you don't, we'll drop a colony on you. Alright, I'll pilot.
No, dropping the colony happens way before the robots get involved. But yeah, either way, for some reason, the main character doesn't want to pilot it and needs to be shown, like, the virtuous reason of why piloting a giant robot is virtuous and not just a massive marketing gimmick to sell toys. But
to my knowledge, there aren't any marketing toy gimmicks for RahXephon.
No,
I don't believe RahXephon ever tried to sell RahXephon as a toy.
No, which actually probably was a failure because the RahXephon is a beautiful robot and probably would have sold quite a few good toys. And the Dolums as well. But
I just bought a RahXephon.
But no, this is the one problem. Ayato has his thing in this episode of not wanting to pilot the RahXephon, and it really doesn't make any sense. You know, he really doesn't give any explanation for it, and his thing of not wanting to, but still wanting to be involved in terror, it just seems really weird. And so, I'd say, if there's one thing where RahXephon has dropped the super robot ball, it's finding a good reason for why does Ayato, for this reason, not want to pilot the robot, and also, as we'll see later on, why does he suddenly decide to pilot the robot?
Because, not a big spoiler that he will eventually start piloting on a regular basis again.
Oh yeah, that is not a big spoiler. But anyway, so anyway, we've got this...
We then, then we have, so he's arguing with her in the middle of this room, and I've got "you know nothing" Kim Snow written down because he does literally say, "You know nothing!"
Well, Kim also says, I'm more useful than you. I know way more about the working world than you do. So it's almost both of them are throwing that at each other. I think considering Ayato's position as the main character, that's more of her going, "You know nothing, Ayato Kamina."
We then have the moment where Itsuki goes, "Look at the petty children. Would you like to go out of here?" And he does treat them like classroom children. He says, you should go out of here and hold buckets until you're finally ready to come back in and be f***ing adults." Which I completely agree. They're being childish. It's an incredibly serious situation. People are dead and are likely to be killed again soon. And they're being childish and petty. But this is what happens when you employ f***ing children in every position in your agency.
Yeah.
I mean, she's 18. He's 17. You're not going to get the professional standards, a big organisation when you're employing teenagers. I'm sorry.
Yep. Very true.
But, anyway,
but that's what... But yeah, I did not realise until I saw that bit, and a bit before here, that Itsuki, I did not remember Itsuki from watching this the first time, was so straight out of the cast of Mean Girls. I heard that line, I was like, oh, snap, Itsuki. Wow.
Yeah, he does have a fair few good lines in this, doesn't he?
Yeah. Itsuki's like, I guess that nice way of counter-stereotyping, because Itsuki sort of, like, has his own complicated romantic history. But yeah, just sort of like, wow, is Itsuki like a solid gold bitch?
Yes, he is. We then have Megumi going, by the way, Ayato, her parents were killed. You're being a dick.
You're being a real dick.
Yeah, I'm glad that this happens, because he is being a real dick here. And it's so obvious that he's doing this. And again, Ayato's behaviour at this point is just completely oblivious to the emotions of everyone around him. Because you've got to think, everyone in that room is probably also going, dude, leave it alone.
Yeah.
Leave it alone. We all know why she's here.
They all effing know.
I know. And all this is, so Megumi brings him up to speed on what actually happens. We then go to Kim going to the Major saying, hey, you know that thing that I have no real qualifications to do? You know, why can't I do that now? Because she wants to go and analyse the patterns for the Moulian to try and work some stuff out about it when that isn't her job. It's not something she's been trained in. It's not something she's good at. It's basically like having your IT department guy go, hey, I've heard the terrorists who killed my family, the people at the target of the next mission. Can I join SEAL Team 6?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that sort of equivalency here, where she's just being asked to be put into a position that's really in no way appropriate for her job, simply because she has a personal stake in this. And very happily, the Major calls her out on this and says, no, that would be stupid. And she says, but I have a personal stake in this. And his response being,
that's exactly why.
That is exactly why you can't do this.
Yeah.
I mean, I like his professionalism here. He's been put in charge, and he basically just goes, no, I'm not going to be a ridiculous moron at this point and never be put in charge again.
Mm-hmm.
At which point...
another point to the Major is he doesn't belittle or demean her by saying this. He just lays it out straight and goes, nope, can't. And he doesn't, like, call her names or anything or snap at her, which I think is very again, a point of his in the writer's favour. They don't belittle her.
Agreed. But then, this is the only point. I mean, this is when he goes selectively deaf, because Itsuki turns up and says, hey, so I hear you talking about you're wanting to analyse the recording of the Moulian song. Well, I need to talk to the commander. Could you take this recording of the Moulian song over to intelligence for me? And don't copy it or steal it on the way. At which point, nobody apparently notices that this is her being given exactly what she wanted and then being told to go off on her own without an escort with this classified data, which she then puts on her MP3 player.
Yeah, she then puts on her MP3 player. By the way, kids, in the future, in like 2024, this whole idea of just having flash media that we embedded in the device that can store thousands upon thousands of songs, more than you could ever conceivably listen to, that'll be done away with. That's old hat. We're going to put them on like tiny little sticks. Tiny, easily breakable sticks. That's the future. Listening to MP3s.
To be fair, those MP3s are virtually identical to the MP3s I had in that sort of time.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure they were probably meant to look more like the MP3s of 2002.
Yeah, which is completely, it does look like the ones that were released at the time. But yeah, also, it's like, hey, could you take this flash drive? I mean, when was the last time in a if you're in a company, I admit it might be different in a classified work environment with a lot of documentation and this sort of stuff, but when was the last time you were told, here are some classified documents on USB, we don't have them on the server for no good reason. Could you please take them to... I mean, unless you're going to have the intelligence department be on a completely isolated network, it's quite silly to do that. And even then, you'd probably have a computer in their room which isn't on an isolated network to transfer files to them. The idea that she'd walk it down there is really just Itsuki turning up and going, I want to give you this! Here is a really paper-thin reason for me to give you this!
We say that these days. I mean, people weren't sort of super hot on computers back then. They also didn't realise the level to which networking would very quickly take over. But even then, people had servers and intranets.
You're trying to justify here, but...
I think writers, when they're writing about computers, they like to think of things that you can hold. And so they think of like disks and things that you can give to people. Despite the fact that even back then, and we're not talking about back then as in back then when RahXephon is set. We're talking about like back then when RahXephon was written. In the very start of the 2000s, even then you could make like internal transfers, but and emails, frankly. But
as much as I like this episode, there are a fair few problems with it, and I think the problems are mostly in the writing and the continuity and the motivations of some of the characters.
Which is a real shame, because Kim's dynamite in it, and she's...
Oh yeah, she's the saving grace. That's why I like this episode. It's about her. She's a good character, and her motivations and her application of those motivations in this episode is very good. It's just sort of everybody else. It's like the writer they got in for this one episode just went, so I want to know everything about Kim, and I'll write everything perfectly about her, and who are these other guys?
If you want to know, the writer for this episode was Ichiro Okoichi, and he's a Japanese screenwriter and novelist and a graduate of Waseda University, School of Human Sciences.
Did he do many of the episodes for the series?
He will do the 7th episode, and I'm just having a little bit of a scan. The 23rd episode.
Ah,
we did 3 episodes.
Yeah, he doesn't...
While we're on the subject... Oh, go on.
I was just going to say, he doesn't do all of them, so...
He doesn't do all of them. Interestingly enough, also did the screenplay for the big hit that came after RahXephon, Wolf's Rain, but perhaps his most famous collaboration is with Goro Taniguchi for Code Geass and Code Geass R2. So here
I like Code Geass, but that explains where all the plot holes came from.
No, if we ever talk about Code Geass, I will explain how to love Code Geass is to love plot holes.
I know.
But anyway...
we probably should do Code Geass at some point, to be fair.
No,
but
let's focus on... I always say I do have series that I'm thinking of doing after RahXephon, but I want to focus on RahXephon because I like focusing
Absolutely, yeah. Let's stick with what we got for the minute.
Right, but yes.
So
I think it's very understandable, though, to just order her to do this, because it is still, even though it's not like the military of a nation, it does seem to act like a military organisation, and you are expected to do what you are ordered to do. So yeah, if they order her to do it, if she doesn't do it, she's disobeying orders, and that's serious.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Except in this episode, but as we agree, this episode, other than stuff with Kim, kind of fails.
Yeah, actually, no, to be fair, also the Major is pretty good in this.
Oh yeah, but
apart
the Major...
from, again, his selective hearing in that scene
hearing.
and one or two other things, but for the most part, he's pretty good. But I've got Odd Stone written in my notes next. I don't know. Oh, that was it. Atari and Jin are meeting with some old dude under a giant rock. Because, oh my god, a giant rock. My god.
Well, they tell him, they call him Lord Barham.
Yeah, they do.
Of the Barham Foundation.
They do. And they're having a nice meeting here about how the preparations are all going well and all the secret background string pulling. This is basically, this scene just has "We are secret string pullers" written all over it. And yeah, it's your first introduction to, so there might be someone behind it, the whole thing, everything. Everything.
Well, this one is, the composition of this scene is kind of interesting because we have a nice long low pan over a deliberately Aztec-y looking tablet. And then we have an immediate cut to the exact opposite of that to a pan down of the 3 gentlemen talking. And we just have them just discussing, I wonder about its fertility, could it be cut and stuff. It's a nice sequence, it's nice to see more of those characters.
I don't mind that.
And it introduces us to Ernst von Barm.
I think it's good because it introduces him as the guy telling both of them what to do.
That's very true.
The head of terror operationally and the head of terror actually, and this guy's just telling them what to do completely. And they're saying, "Oh, thank you for your support and patronage."
Yeah.
So yeah, and it also shows that there is a goal, an end game, and certainly something going on in the background. So.
Indeed.
Yeah. We then go to... Who's T? I've got T.
You're talking about the train? They're on the train again?
No, sorry, it was Terror. So Ernst von Barben then says that they then outlines exactly what they have the RahXephon for, which is essentially, you get to keep the RahXephon for emergencies, which is pretty much all they wanted it for, because if you can't call a giant bloody clay golem appearing and killing everyone in emergency, I'm not quite sure what your classification of an emergency is.
Indeed.
So, yeah, the RahXephon is, for all intents and purposes, theirs to do what they want. Then they decide that the sepia tone is clearly not in use enough, so we cut to another one of these flashbacks.
Yeah.
Sepia. I think they just had a lot of sepia. This is probably the episode they drew last, and they were just like, we've got so much sepia left in the printer. we should probably get rid of quite a bit of it. So, we have two little girls, both of whom are clearly Kim, one of whom is crying, "Oh God, my parents are dead, and here I have a red ball. It's to show that my parents are dead." And the other one going, "I've got a purpose. I'm going to go and do something." Who walks off.
No, that's interesting. So that's your interpretation of that scene.
Well, it's clearly too. It's one of the girls walks away, cold, calm, and with a purpose, leaving the child crying behind. That's my interpretation. Is that it's her leaving behind her crying child in order to have revenge.
Well, the fact, to me, splitting in two. Now, this is what I was hoping for this podcast. Lovely. Different interpretations of interpretable scenes. Now, to me, this represents, obviously, the point in her past in which she was very sad. And the two children aren't necessarily two Kims. They're still both Kim. But the idea is we've got the Kim now getting up and moving forward. But this Kim has not addressed the childlike sadness. That's the reason why she has the ball. I think the ball is like symbolic of childhood. You know, the child alone that plays with the ball is just sort of, I don't know, not the fact that she's alone, but just a child playing with a ball is a good way of showing childlike play, and thus this is her as a child. In terms of way, I almost think that in that scene they deliberately made that face look much more like the adult Kim than is actually feasible. And you see her moving forward, but the point is that she is not turning, and she is not acknowledging, and she's not dealing with the pain of having lost her parents. She's just moving forward. And the reason for this, you got the determination, which I agree with, but for me the determination is her set goal. And it shows perhaps the error that Kim is making, is that in that she is moving forward towards this goal without actually looking back and sorting out her pain now. Because of course, to Kim, as we'll hear later, it's her revenge. It's her revenge that she thinks that will settle her pain. So she is committing a mistake by not looking and dealing with her pain then, as she was then, and instead moving forward with this goal. And the fact that you have the other child standing up, turning away, and moving away from the crying Kim is her, in a way, foolishly ignoring her pain, because she thinks that by pursuing this goal, it will be better. And I think this is a way of the show showing us, look, isn't this how unfortunate Kim has chosen this quite unfortunate decision, because she's still hurting, because the crying child is still there. And in a way it is like causing this further stretchiness is like the distress, because of course we have this separation of the two, and the separation is like, oh no, you're leaving her alone. So it's like, it's showing us like the kind of distress that Kim is causing herself with how she has chosen to deal with this problem.
I have a point to make on your interpretation, but I can only make it at the end of the episode.
Okay, right.
We'll put a pin in this until then, and then we'll go into a little more detail. So, after we have
that sequence
flashback, we then have her listening to what is clearly the stolen confidential file, because what else was going to happen to it, frankly?
It's the Moulian song data, yeah.
And, she's listening to it on the train. Now, I'm sorry, but why is she just listening to this on the train? That's the sign of a damaged mind, I really think. Just like, this is the song that killed my parents. I agree with her maybe putting it in her computer, trying to analyse the sound wave, trying to do whatever the hell you do with Moulian sound, but no, I'm just going to hear it on repeat, on a train, the last sound my parents heard before they died. But, you have Kwon, who is clearly, summoned by the gods of being creepy and mysterious to this point, who listens to the music, immediately says, oh, here's a translation of it, and gives an incredibly ambiguous little speech, which is obviously a clue about the next target, because she just says, it's a city like this with that. I mean, it's the next target. It really is. And Kim goes, I guess you're being weird, and just ignores it. And Kwon also says, that's a very pretty music box. Why are you crying? And it should be noted that Kim isn't crying, but there is an internal Kim that was crying in the flashback.
Yeah.
Not a flashback, really, but in the interpretable scene we just had. So this is once again Kwon being creepy, seeming to know more than she's meant to, and apparently even being able to look at sepia internal debates.
Angst. In the interview, in the linear notes, of ADV, we've got another short interview with Kwon's voice actor, and it said, when I first saw an illustration of Kwon, my impression was that she was a cute doll-like character, but the dialogue I was given was line after line of riddle-like talk, so it made me think she was an eccentric girl whom common sense would not apply to.
She certainly plays it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we then have Ayako testing the RahXephon going, no, I'm not going to fight, but I will test it. I'll pilot it, but I'm only going to pilot it as long as there isn't any actual reason to do so. The moment there's a reason it needs to be piloted, I'm gone.
Also, you have a problem.
Yeah, I know. This is also, Itsuki's basic response to this is, no one asked.
Yeah.
That is his response. It's like, I do not care in the slightest. He's like, yes, we've all heard your bullshit nonsense. Just pilot the thing for us now.
There we go again. Itsuki, epic burn.
I know, it's great. We then have them hopefully muting the microphone, because at this point, if the microphone wasn't muted, Ayako should never trust anything Itsuki says ever again. Because Sayako, that's the assistant, in case we haven't mentioned her enough, but boobs lady, decides to say that, he'll be pissed off when he finds out the truth. What truth is that? Well, the truth that the guinea pig is strapping himself in and attaching all the diodes that are already attached. Yeah, Itsuki points out he hasn't actually ever lied, but he does have a don't ask, don't tell policy. So...
Yeah. So I was like, he didn't ask, so I didn't tell him. Sort of
like,
wow, you're not suspicious as Itsuki.
It's like, did anything happen in a weird way while I was unconscious? Damn, he's asked, and I'm not allowed to directly lie. Sayako then says, maybe I'll tell him the truth. At which point there is not even a vaguely veiled threat here. Itsuki just point blank turns to her and goes, well, you know something about how the truth and happiness are often quite far apart, and you wouldn't want people to tell the truth, would you? So,
that's interesting.
You had this sinister implication.
So it's a sinister one in the English one. In the Japanese one, it's kind of just another cool bitchy burn from Itsuki again. He goes, she says, maybe I should tell him the truth. And he says, well, I've often found that, the truth and happiness, there's actually a big distance between them. And you're adult enough to know the difference between, adult enough to know how that works, aren't you? Smile. And I'm like,
right, so you had a burn. No, he does say the same, he says the same first line. He's like, there is a distance between happiness and truth. And he says, you're one who will definitely know that sort of thing. The implication is that she knows way too much that the truth and happiness should be kept way apart.
Yeah. In his is sort of like basically straight of manipulating her feelings towards him. He just straight up goes, I would be really disappointed and think it was very immature if someone told this teenager that we were totally experimenting with him. That's like, God. That's like what a freaking kid would do, Like a sensible person who has to pay their taxes every day, they know that child experimentation is just how we get done.
I know, yeah. It's like when you get home and then you go, do you want me to make you dinner? Well, I would never ask my girlfriend to make me dinner, but if there was the sort of girl who wasn't making me dinner at least once a week, I'd probably break up with her. It's that, isn't it?
Yeah,
really?
bitch.
It's like, dick move, man.
Dick move.
It's like, I wouldn't necessarily say you have to do it.
When I was researching RahXephon
for
the podcast, I kept on hearing stuff about, wow, Itsuki's such a dick and stuff. And I was like, was Itsuki such a dick? I remember him getting a bit weird, but I think at the start he was kind of charming. I was like, well, I clearly misremembered this massively.
Yeah, because we've established after, 2 episodes of him being in this, just the amount of dickishness he has. It's off the scale.
But it's really entertaining dickishness, can I say?
He does have more dick than the Dolan that's about to appear.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of dick.
Oh, yeah.
So, we'll get to that in a second. But we then have a vaguely gratuitous scene of Kim getting out of the shower.
Do you think it's gratuitous? We don't ever see her. We see her her silhouette, and then she takes the thing. If anything, that is considerably restrained.
True, you do normally get the flesh in the shower that's not the flesh you can't show. Yeah. So I'm fine.
You see it finishing. All we see is someone opening. We see her body line in a silhouette style outside the window. Then she reaches and all we see is her arm that takes up the towel, and then we immediately cut to her doorway, and she's already got her bathrobe on.
I think that's pretty good. Take a caveat to my statement. I would say it's not a gratuitous shower scene, but the fact that there is a shower scene is gratuitous pointlessness. There is no reason she needs to be showering at this time.
After work?
For start,
just come back after work.
It's 1:45 to midnight. Well, it's 1:45 to midnight.
A lot of people
Do you
have.
shower at quarter to midnight?
I know. I as well. I am a shower in the morning type person, but I know plenty of people who have their showers like right before they go to bed.
Really?
Yeah, they have theirs in the evening before they go to bed, and then they just get up.
To all of the people who have showers in the evenings, you're weird and you've made me confused by anime. So we're going to move on. But,
I don't think you're weird, people who shower in the evening. I need a shower to wake up. But yeah, I can understand saving time by having a shower in the evening.
I wouldn't be able to go through the day feeling like I hadn't showered since I slept. Do you not wake up thinking, I could probably do with a wash now? Anyway, so she then has an answer phone message, which is Megu saying, I'm concerned, but I don't know how to express it or what I'm concerned about, so call me if there's something to be concerned about.
And this is a nice sign to say, hey Kim, how about having... I know you're only a few years difference, but a few other friends closer to your own age wouldn't hurt. This is what happens when your only friend is like a effing 17-year-old. She's like, I want to help, but I don't know, but I'm still going to call you to be totally ineffectual. I mean, when I was 19, I'm pretty sure that would have pissed me off.
No, I completely agree with you. It's basically Kim is getting a call here, which is just saying, I want to help, I'm not really sure what the problem is, I'm not really sure what the solution is, but if you know and you can tell me, give me a call and I'll do it. So, yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, but yeah, I think the main reason I think it's quite good, though, is as much as it's ineffectual and it's kind of pointless, I like that it's there because it shows, one, that Megumi and Kim are close enough that she would ring her at night when she's concerned. It also shows that Megumi wants to help but is naive enough that she doesn't really understand how. And it also reinforces the fact that Kim does need help because she does. She's kind of going off the rails a bit here, stealing confidential documents and getting a bit weird about it all. So... yeah, I like the phone call. We then have Kim looking at the music box, which provokes another sepia interface. And,
which is, by the way, really sad, because you see the people who were looking up to her, the implication that is given from this, and it's kind of varied, so we kind of have to explain it, is that Kim's parents were killed in the attacks in Australia. So while Kim was in Japan, she was being looked after by two other people who seem to be a married couple. And of course... then they're killed, and she's stuck with this couple, who I don't know, I think are relatives. And they are straight up saying, where she can hear them, we agreed to look after them for a freaking holiday. We didn't mean like forever. Now they're effing dead. How are we going to get rid of this brat?
Let's dump her on whoever's making money out of the attacks. Now, I think it's important to note a few things in this scene in chronological order. So first she hears, your parents were killed and we don't want you. Then we'll dump her on this. At which point, a package arrives. So you think, she's been left with these people who might be nice enough to leave her with for a couple of weeks while they go on holiday. But the thing is, it's very much established that her parents are on holiday, and this package appears. And she goes, look, it's my birthday present.
Yeah, from her.
These parents have left their only child to go to Sydney. I mean, for a start, going on holiday without your child, bit of a dick move. Second thing, going on holiday without your child and leaving her alone on her birthday.
I don't know,
What is wrong with these parents?
It might have been a business trip, perhaps?
No, it wasn't. I thought that, and I was like, no. It said repeatedly during this episode that it's a holiday, that it's a pleasure vacation.
Did it say it was a birthday present?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure.
This
maybe
is your birthday. No, they sent her the thing, and in the actual, maybe not in the Japanese, but in the English dialogue, it says, this is your birthday present. We will have many more souvenirs for you when we get back. Until then, be a good girl.
I do agree. It does seem quite harsh if they just left her on her birthday. And it's very hard to perhaps imagine a very young kid being okay with that. But I'm fine with the idea that they talked it out beforehand.
Yeah, but
because it might have been a once
dick move.
Very.
I'm sorry. It's just going on holiday without your child. Fair enough. Going on holiday without your child on her birthday, not really acceptable in my mind. But yeah, the only other alternative is saying, they might have been back before she was having her birthday, but they were killed. And they go, no, because the package arrived deliberately because they're not going to be there.
Yeah.
So it's just
which how sad is that? After your parents are killed, you then get your birthday present from them. He's got a picture of them. It's like, hey, be good.
Yeah,
oh.
it's a picture of them.
Very sad sequence.
It just shows repeatedly their message, and that has pretty much the source of her torment is like, I will be a good girl. I'll be a good girl. Maybe they'll come back if I continue to be a good girl.
Oh, God.
So, yeah, this is the immense trauma flashback that we have now. But she then decides to maybe put the wave on the map, which, frankly, after watching all the anime, playing all the games and all the rest of it, is the first thing I would have done, really, is to put the wave of the Moulian song on a map. And, surprisingly, it fits perfectly around all the 8 cities that were destroyed. And as such, it's basically the Moulians turning up and going, I'm gonna break shit up! Do you want to see where I'm gonna do it? And yelling that in order to kill people. Yeah, imagine if your method of killing people was to yell the next victim's name at them until their ears burst and their brain melted. It would probably be quite an odd crime for Sherlock Holmes to solve. So, we then have a cut to her telling the Major all of her discoveries, that the map method that probably should have been done way earlier than this actually works, and we now know exactly where the golem's going to appear next. And he says, well, I guess I'm going to have to do that old double bluff cliche, so no one is going to mobilise on this. You've got no real evidence. It doesn't look like anyone would take you seriously. ... So it's a good thing I'm here.
It's a good thing I'm here and I'm in charge. And
I'm in charge. I would completely break protocol on your every whim.
So it's not surprising. I think it is in this scene, isn't it? She kisses him on the cheek.
She kisses him on the cheek.
Which is really cute.
Yes.
And he seems totally okay with it. He actually, his reaction seems really just blasé.
His reaction is,
the women
who work here pay me in sexual favour.
Well, it's not even that. He barely responds. He just goes, she kisses him and he goes, thank you very much.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. That's some nice kissing you've done there. Well done. Yeah, the thing is, it's less weird later on, but it is kind of weird at this point.
Yeah.
It is just a random member of his staff.
No, in this case, then, it very quickly says, so there's probably a thing that has always been going on with them. As in they are together like now.
Well, this is the thing.
Seems a bit against protocol.
Either they're together at this point, and as such, that's a little restrained, but you are in the office, so you should either be not doing it or doing it properly. Or they're not together, and then that's a bit odd, and it's really not at all appropriate. You just kind of go, well, nothing is appropriate. We can't work out in any way why this would be appropriate as a response.
Yeah.
Especially if this is your response to... Also, this is also the response to her saying, oh, by the way, I stole all that classified documentation. He goes, well, we're not going to comment on that. Many people would put you in prison for this. But I'm not going to. We could mobilise on that. Many people wouldn't mobilise because you have no evidence and no real grounds for this, and it's a lot of money that we'd be pissing away by doing it. But I won't. So, yeah, this is a bit of a weird scene, to be fair.
Well, I think this shows one nice thing then, is it shows the people involved in the anti-alien organisation in a giant robot show, seeing that there's probably a threat, using their wits and previous experience to come up with a way of predicting where the next attack will be, and then getting it involved there, and getting sort of everything ready there to stop the bad thing from happening, and evacuating the place to prevent further casualties, and getting the giant robot there.
Did they evacuate the place? Because
yes.
It's never actually mentioned.
It's never mentioned
at all.
They have
whether they
evacuated
and in several of the scenes later on, there are lights on in quite a few of the houses.
Could have been left on.
Exploded.
Could have been left on in the rush, because they probably did it very quickly.
I like to think that the evacuation was very rushed and that they left a lot of evidence that people were there happening, but it does seem like they might have just pulled all the tanks up and went, people can leave or don't. We're not going to do any sort of organised evacuation now. But no, we're going to give the benefit of the doubt and say that they probably did evacuate the city. And then, as expected, the D1 will appear. However, we first of all see Alvi and Haruka sitting in a plane on top of a building, waiting for them, and Ayato, who, on a whim, is piloting now!
Yeah, he's piloting now.
It doesn't at all say why!
It doesn't really say why.
No,
there's a bit of a flashback, isn't there? Of Kim.
There's a flashback in a couple of scenes, but at this point, it's just... So I decided I'd pilot.
Yeah.
I woke up and I was in a piloting mood today, and it just so happened that you needed one, so I thought, oh well, I guess I could do that. It's not a problem. The D1 appears, and I'd like to just point out at this point that this Dolem is the most phallic Dolem the world has ever seen.
Yes, it appears. Can I just say also one? Was it this Dolem called Ritara Ritardando? You know what? I tell you what, they're all named after musical things.
Put it into Google.
That's exactly what I'm doing. There we go. Ritardano meaning it is an adjective, a gradual decrease in tempo. There we go. We should have done that for all of the bloody Dolems. From now on, I am going to make sure that I type in what the Dolem
actually is.
What the Dolem means, because they are all, of course, named after musical terms.
So it's a gradual decrease in tempo.
A gradual decrease in tempo. Its total height, by the way, is 394 feet, so it is a very phallic, very tall Dolem.
Yeah, no, the thing is, though, it's not just that it looks really bloody phallic, it's that there are certain shots and angled shots of its silhouette that look incredibly phallic as well. It's like they've not even made any effort to hide how stupidly phallic this thing looks. So yes, the D1 appears, and the RahXephon is now fighting it for no reason that's given at this point, and it begins attacking the city, at which point all of the ambush troops start firing, and as always have absolutely no effect whatsoever onto the Dolem, and are just here to increase the cost in human lives and the military budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why they even keep sending them, frankly. I don't mind if they're testing new weapons, but they never are. They're just sending people to die repeatedly.
It's very sad, really, if you start thinking about it like that.
Yeah, this is when the RahXephon, at this point, is fighting so badly that anyone would just despair. Because they have to essentially just start trying to punch it repeatedly.
Yep.
It's kind of pathetic to watch him try and fight this thing. I felt bad for the guy, because he's meant to be, the only one piloting, he's meant to be testing this, but no one said, oh, by the way, do you want to try something other than just wailing on it? And, this one is a lot faster as well. Like all the other ones, he's basically stuck a hand in and ripped them to pieces. This one actually seems to be able to dodge and blasts him from below, from the side. And
now that you've said it's really phallic, it feels very unfortunate, because, of course, it smashes him into a building, and there's this quite long extended sequence where it just keeps on pulling out and then just smashing back in.
Yeah, that sequence is just like Ayatha was being rammed against a building repeatedly by a giant phallic clay monster.
Yep.
Just odd. But yeah, while he's being rammed into the building,
it doesn't help. I just realised that the
mouth life till this point.
Yeah, that the mouth is on the tip when it starts singing. Yeah, so you have the flashback, which explains very little about why the hell Ayato decided to pilot the RahXephon.
This flashback is essential. We then have a flashback, which is just Ayato sitting on the roof going, meh. Kim turns up and says, so I hear you decided to pilot after all. Is that because, you've changed your mind? No, not really. Is that because you want revenge? No, not really. Is that for any reasonable decision in any way that's understandable by an audience? No, not really. I just thought, I can? That's his literal reason right there. Because I can. And then he says, there must be a reason why I have this ability, so I might as well use it. Which is a little too for my liking, to be fair. But as we said, this episode, while very good in many ways, seriously lacks in the character development of everyone who isn't Kim or possibly the Major. So, we then cut back to Ayato being slammed into the wall of a building repeatedly, and
you really don't like this bit. He does. He manages to break a bit of the Dolem by punching it, and punches it back a bit.
Certainly not a lot.
No, certainly not a lot.
But then the Dolem then decides it's going to use its major special weapon, which is to make the floor suck you in
into another extra-dimensional thing. And for the person who...
Was it extra-dimensional move space or something?
Yeah.
Which, to me, just sounds like where Magical Trevor went with all the cows.
Exactly. It really does. Well, it's interesting. I find it interesting that you, since you're the person who likes to make references to Eva, this is the one that most reminded me of Eva.
Of Eva, yeah.
Because it's the 12th Angel.
Absolutely. Yes.
It is. They're the 12th Angel, who also sucked things into a sea of an extra-dimensional portal.
We have a very, very similar scene, to be fair. He sort of starts sinking into this, and it also cuts to him in the cockpit, who are basically sinking into the inky blackness, and it's very much like he's drowning. And once he's actually under water, in inverted commas, he cuts to the fact that he's apparently been sketching Mishima again, and he sees her, when he's underwater. She sticks her hand in, pulls him out. So she's still very much a part of this series, being the Deus Ex, what you need to do something RahXephon based, hey, I can help you character. I mean, yeah, basically it's just a case of, I want to do something about this. Oh, well, I guess I'll just sort of summon Mishima. She goes, oh, look, maybe if you try pushing the button 3 from the left of you, it's the fire all the missiles button. But,
maybe that will work. But yeah.
Well, she reaches down, pulls him out of the water. We see the RahXephon erupting, and then the wings! Oh, God, the wings!
It spreads its head wings a bit more. And but then what's interesting is it kind of doesn't do much fighting with it. The Dolem sort of flies around.
Yeah, it just stands up. The RahXephon just stands up and is like, oh, I'm here now. The Dolem full-on rushes you.
And it just explodes on RahXephon's head. RahXephon kind of standing headbutts it to death.
No, he doesn't even move. He just stands there.
Well, no, that's what I mean. He stands there and it hits him in the skull and he's like, boom, explodes.
This is just, hey, if I keep hitting him against the wall, maybe something good will... Yeah. Well done. Good job there. So the Dolem pretty much suicides.
Yeah, pretty much suicides, thinking that it's the same kind of RahXephon, I guess.
Maybe the RahXephon equipped Fizz Repel between scenes, and then just, oh, sorry, I repel physical attacks now, and all the force gets pushed into you. Oh no! So, yeah. But completely without effort, the RahXephon wins yet another fight. And everyone has a nice little drink about it. After the successful defeat of the Golem, we cut to
It's Yagumo, not Yakumo. Ah, maybe I've been saying his name wrong. Sorry, go on.
Yagumo. Yagumo is how it's pronounced in the English. Yeah. Watari and Jin are talking about the Major, about how very well he did. And then they clearly are going, do you know, we have a shared past. Yes, we do. We have shared trauma in the past. It's what we motivate between each other. Yeah, we do. Maybe we could hint at it a bit more. Maybe.
Later.
And that's the end of the scene. We cut to then Kim cleaning up. Kim. See, this is now the point where I wanted to talk to you about your interpretation, because Kim is now cleaning her house, and she's written in her sketchbook, "Thank you," and she's then snaps the music player in half and then carries on cleaning the house. Now,
the stick, not the music player, by the way, the stick that contains the
the stick that she stole that has the aria of the thing that killed her family. But no, okay, this is my point now. You were saying, oh, she's not dealing with her past. She's not. Okay, she's fine now.
Yeah, well, she's fine now. But she wasn't
completes
fine
her
then.
revenge. No.
Well, no, yeah. The interpretation then of this is that she achieved her goal.
She achieved her
what
revenge,
I'm saying is I think that's a bad thing, probably because of my own point of view. Maybe what the people who were saying in that earlier scene, where the two Kims are walking away from each other, is just to show you how sad she is, because that's what she's doing in order to make herself feel better. And I do think by the end of the episode, the way the episode seems to see it is that she was successful. Good for Kim. And I'm afraid, no matter how well it's portrayed, I'm always going to say, sorry, revenge ain't cool. So I'm always going to say it's a negative thing. So my interpretation of that is always going to be she's doing a mistake. But that's because of me and because of my revenge is never right policy.
Yeah, but I think the implication.
But I understand what you mean is that she's totally all right.
It's she has her revenge. She's psychologically traumatized previously. She's okay now.
Yeah.
You know, she's moved on. She's done her thing, and as such, woohoo! Turns out revenge really is the best policy.
Yeah. Well, no, I've got no problem with that, but I still think my my interpretation's okay for that other scene.
No, absolutely. I was more, I was saying that the series, I would say, just thinks that she's chosen
the right thing,
revenge, and then that's fine.
That's fine.
That was her way of dealing with it, and it's fine. And she's done it. Success.
Well,
high five.
I mean, it only cost what those people in the tanks and whoever was controlling the Dolem. Those people are dead.
That entirely isn't her fault. And whoever was controlling the Dolem is the person who's killed her family.
That's
so,
true.
Frankly, whatever.
I guess whatever. Yeah. If you were going to commit revenge, yes, that wasn't her fault. The people who died, and
then the final scene we have is her saying, "Happy 19th birthday, me."
Indeed, happy birthday, 19. So yeah, she's now 19.
19. She's 19 at the end of this episode. So as we've been saying, stupidly young.
Stupidly young, but she's avenged her parents, and she seems quite happy, and she might have something going with her boss. So
yeah. So what you're
that's
saying
totally
is
not
she's
conflicting.
Got as far as she's got because she might have got somewhere with her boss.
So actually, while we're talking about Kim,
Well, we're done with the episode now, so we are going to talk about anything we can.
So this episode was a major thing about Kim. I really do like Kim. Kim is played in the Japanese cast by Fumiko Orikasa. She plays a lot of quite actiony, energetic characters, indeed. And she actually plays quite a few very famous characters, I'll just point out. Because she is the modern voice of Chun-Li in anything after Street Fighter 4. It's like any modern game that has Chun-Li in it. She'll be playing Chun-Li. She is Yagyu Kyubei in Gintama. But another Shonen Jump character she is Rukia Kuchiki in Bleach. She's Rukia's voice. And some other the other interesting character that I immediately latched onto. Oh yeah, she's Riza Hawkeye. I mean, in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, because of course they swapped nearly all the voice cast over. But in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, she's Riza Hawkeye, and she is also Yasuko in Den of Coil.
See, now, because we've been comparing this to Evangelion the whole time, I will just be able to say that Kim in the English is played by Tiffany Grant, who the only thing most people will really know her as is that she's Asuka's voice in Evangelion.
Fantastic. Actually, let's look her up.
Yeah, I skimmed her other stuff, and it's all either stuff I haven't seen or very minor background characters in this. So, like, for example, Elfen Lied, another show that I absolutely love. She's the character in Elfen Lied, Kisaragi, who is the girl who is killed in the opening prior to the episode beginning of the first episode. Yeah. And that's it. That's her entire role in Elfen Lied, is to be in maybe 3 scenes and then be decapitated by the main character.
Nothing wrong with... I remember that's a character. And there's nothing wrong with having a short character. You're an actor. You got to work, especially if you're a voice actor. But
no, I'm not criticising her at all. I'm just saying that you know her as Asuka, and I honestly cannot find anything else that I have either seen and that I know about to any degree.
I like Kim, and it's a real pity that Kim gets a sort of a nice little exploratory episode where everyone else is kind of weird. Apart from Itsuki, actually. I said Itsuki's got his snark on, but everyone else is kind of weird in this episode and not firing on all cylinders, and it's a bit of a shame. And the robot fight isn't that great.
It's a weird one. See, I'm not sure, because watching it, I was going, do you know, I genuinely really liked watching this episode. I did. I thought it was a lot of fun. I do like the Kim plot, and I've said all this before, but everyone else is just weird. I do think it's probably one of the weaker episodes, but at the same time, one of the stronger ones. You know what I mean? It's a shame that it's got.
I'm afraid because it doesn't work together as because it doesn't work together as a full episode. I do have to jump in and say, then I kind of have to say it is a weak episode, because to me, an episode is an episode that works all together. But I can't say, I can't just dismiss this episode because it is about Kim Hotal, one of my favourite characters in the show that I really like. I'm trying to say her last name properly. It's because it's so easy to just accidentally say Hotel, and I swear that's how the Japanese say it, but it's not. It's Hotal. Yeah. Which is also why I kind of thought one of her parents. I think actually she's half Japanese, half Australian. I thought because Kim Hotal, I thought she was Korean. But I guess she must not be. Or maybe she is a Korean immigrant. Because she seems to have family in Japan, so maybe she's like second generation Korean immigrant. Which do exist, despite I'm sure a lot of Japanese people trying vehemently to assume that they don't. But, you know, when you've got like the two most advanced countries that exist, you know, them, you know, Japan, South Korea and Indonesia, there's gonna be like immigration between the two of them. It just makes sense, and it makes sense especially to us as Europeans, doesn't it?
Just as a point, I don't know how accurate this is, but according to the internet, her name is written in Chinese characters.
Yes, her name. So it might be. Well, you could
maybe that she's half Chinese.
I say this: everyone's name is written in Chinese characters, Huw. Strictly speaking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Kim.
Then edit that out.
Kim is even written with the character for Moon. 1 second.
Okay.
Let me just. No, sorry. It would be Kim Mu. Yeah. The Mu from Kim is written is in Moon. Let's break down Kim's name. Why not? Because that was good when we did it for another character. So yes, her last name is written in the character for Gold. Kim, actually, when you run it through Google Japanese Translator, it translates it as Mizumi Itsuki. Yeah, Itsuki as it ski as in Mizumi ski, like water moon, I think. If I go Lake Month, yes, literally in Chinese characters when you put it to Chinese, Lake Month. So her name is Gold. Her last name written character for Gold, and Kim is written as Lake Month. So
I'm not sure that was interesting to be honest.
Hey, no, I like hearing what characters they're written in.
That's
Month, but Month. Sorry, by the way, is Moon. Month is written in with the same character as Moon. Just so you know. Everyone's name is written. Her name actually, it says in the linear notes, written in Chinese characters, is meant to be pronounced differently. Her name written in Chinese characters reads generally Kin Kogetsu. So I think her name is written in Japanese. Japanese people would generally pronounce it Kin Kogetsu, but it's pronounced differently. And I guess that's probably a way of showing her quasi-foreignness. So again, a nice example of showing someone in Terror who is not entirely Japanese.
Look traditionally Japanese, sort of. You know that style where you can always tell if someone is Chinese in anime because they draw them in a stereotyped Chinese way.
In a racist way, but yeah, I don't think Kim's drawn in a racist way. And I think
I don't think she's drawn in a racist way, but my point
in the same way that Elvie, because Elvie's from Indonesia, she's drawn in a very different way.
It's notable that they're different.
Yeah, so Kim again is another person from the greater Asia area, I think, but it's never really said exactly how, and maybe we're making an assumption, but I think it's important to mention that because.
Well, so to summarise, this episode is good. I like watching this episode. It is a good episode. It's a strong episode, but it's also one of the weaker episodes in the series, as we said, because there's so many things that don't work in it. A lot of the other characters don't work, and there's just a lot of problems with it. But at the same time, it's good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get it.
It's the issue we have with this. While we have to be quite critical looking at it now, it's still good. In no way should it be taken that we dislike Kim, we dislike the episode or anything. And the thing is, the things they change about the other characters that isn't any good, it's not unfixable. It's not like, there's a scene where so-and-so acts so out of character and does something really horrible that you could never forgive him for. It's not like in one scene I had to see him drowning a puppy or anything.
I understand what you mean there. And good for you, but you're the person who really likes this show, so you're going to say it. So I think I feel obligated to say quite a nasty thing. And yeah, I'd say this episode, especially compared to like the previous episode, which worked so well together as a whole episode, this episode really didn't. And it's a real shame that if I could edit this episode to just show the stuff with Kim and to cut out all of the stupid bits, I would, and I'd show that to people when I'm showing them the episode. So I would say I'm sadly disappointed that the episode that explains what such well-liked characters kind of drops the ball so badly. But until next time, Huw.
Yes, Liz?
Set your watch.